Welcome to the Best of the Monty Show 2023, presented by our friends at SoundSleepMedical.com. Before we get into it, I want to remind you, there's a big difference between snoring and sleep apnea. Every night in this country, people go to bed with sleep apnea and they never wake up because it stops you from breathing. You know, if you have sleep apnea and you wake up and you're, or your spouse wakes you up because you're snoring loudly and gasping for air, you don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to be embarrassed anymore. You don't have to sleep away from your wife or your husband. All you have to do is get to soundsleepmedical.com/Monty and sign up for their free sleep evaluation. No embarrassment. It's completely discreet. What they're going to do is tell you, hey, are you just somebody who snores or do you have sleep apnea? In any case, they're going to fit you for a custom mouthpiece that's going to move your lower jaw forward, clearing your airway so you can get that sleep you need. I'm begging you, do it right now, don't delay. Sleep apnea kills Americans every single night. Don't be the next one. Get to soundsleepmedical.com.
Treat snoring and sleep apnea with no masks and no tubes. Just better, healthier sleep with Sound Sleep Medical. Use code MONTY, M-O-N-T-Y, to schedule a free sleep assessment today.
The Monty Show.
What's the right way to build in the NBA? Is it to do what the Utah Jazz are doing and restructure your salary cap, keep veterans on the roster, and try to accumulate draft assets that you can then trade to build? Or do you do what the Houston Rockets do? Trade everything, burn this thing to the ground, get a bunch of draft capital, and play with 17-year-olds for 3 years and hope for the best. It's a big question, and in my mind, I think rebuilding the way the Jazz are rebuilding is the right way to go because I think it gets you back to a championship much more quickly, and I think it gives your fans something to hang on to. But Jake, where are you? Are the Jazz the right way to do it, or are the Rockets the right way to do it?
Yeah, I think there's a proven route to success with rebuilding, and I think it's the way the Jazz are doing it, which is Danny Ainge is obviously going to make some significant trades, but you're not making those trades with the intent of just burning it down. You're making those trades with the intent of getting your salary cap right so you can go and make more moves and have more flexibility. My problem with the way that teams like the Rockets are doing it is you're just burning it down to burn it down. You're just burning it down so that you can have more money to play with, but you don't know the direction you want to go to. I view burning it down differently than what the Jazz did. Burning it down is just let's trade everybody and just start over. But we don't have direction. We don't have a sense of strategy. We don't have any sort of end goal, really. It's easy to say, like, if you're the Rockets, it's easy to say, well, our end goal is to win a championship. You're not winning a championship anytime soon. And the reason you're not winning a championship anytime soon is because you don't have that vision and strategy and direction. So to me, this is very clear. I think the Jazz and the way they're going about it is proper. The frustrating thing and why we talk about the Jazz so much on the show right now is because they are capable of winning. Like both of these teams tonight, what's funny is they both lost their last 5 games. The problem is with the Jazz, we're surprised by that because the way they're losing these games is very fixable. It's correctable.
Yes.
That's the hard part, is that the way the Jazz are rebuilding is much more clinical, much more proper to me, because you have the way you're going about it is allowing you to be in these games. It's not just lucky that you happen to beat this one team or that team. It's not just lucky that you lost to this team or that team. You lost because you turned it over and you're playing bad basketball, not because you're a bad team. Just like that's the difference. Whereas the Rockets lose because they're a bunch of 17-year-olds that just aren't ready to win.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. I think when you look at this Jazz team, I think there's a lot to hang on to with this Jazz team. I actually think there's a lot to be excited about with this Jazz team. I think the question is, how invested is Ryan Smith? And I know we've talked about this in the past, but I think it's a really salient point right now and a really big question if you're a Jazz fan. How much confidence do you have that Ryan Smith is going to lead this franchise to a championship? Because I think there are a lot of questions about that. One of the topics that we talked about on the show yesterday is what is the bar for sports in this town? And I'm curious if you as a Jazz fan believe that winning a championship for the Utah Jazz is within reach. Because I do. I think the Jazz will compete for a championship in the next 3 to 5 seasons. I think this upcoming trade deadline in just about a month here is massively important. I think they have to do big business, and sources around the league continue to tell me that the Jazz are busy. They are on the phone, and I think they will do business here. But the question is, what is your level of confidence that this Jazz organization is willing to go out and do what has to be done to win a championship?
Yeah.
And I don't know how confident people are. I really don't.
Yeah, I think people would be more confident if Ryan Smith was regularly out in public talking. I think people would feel more safe and more reassured that things were going the right way if Ryan Smith would simply make a statement once a month. Instead of doing it at a media dais, why don't you do it at like why don't you and this is the thing with England and Europe and Premier League teams and things like that. There are certain sects of that sport where you get leadership out in the community, meeting people and talking to people, and there's a relatability factor that I think is really necessary. And yesterday on the show we talked about this, expectation things and do people treat Salt Lake like a major market even though it's not, which they should be doing. And the problem is that Ryan Smith does own the Jazz. He does own RSL. And I'm not sitting here saying he's doing a bad job. That's not really the conversation we're having. We're having a conversation about what could you be doing better? How much further could you push the envelope with what you have to work with now? And my belief is you could push the envelope quite a bit further. I just don't think they're prioritizing the fan experience outside of the physical game, which is what really matters, which is why, not to go right back to the membership thing we were just talking about, but that was the reason I wanted and we wanted on the show to start doing memberships, because we want to serve you guys because you've been supporting us just the same way the Jazz and BYU and Utah and all of our teams here really should reach out and try to support you and give you more value when you're not watching the show or the game or whatever it is. So that's my struggle with leadership in this town is I feel like Ryan Smith could do a lot more, and he's just not. And again, I'm not sitting here insinuating the guy's just sitting around on his couch drinking a cup of coffee, not doing anything. I respect the fact that the guy is, a billionaire who owns multiple organizations and is really busy. But what I don't buy is that you don't have 5 minutes to spend with media relations, putting out a video on Twitter saying, "Hey, Jazz fans, it's Ryan Smith. I'm literally just in my office and wanted to say hey today."
Yep.
That's not hard to do.
Hey, big shout out to Salty Drunk. He's now a member of the Monty Show channel. Appreciate that.
He
has exclusive access to video content and our Instagram group. Appreciate that.
You, man. Thank you.
Sean Carden says if Quinn Snyder coached the Rockets or Magic, they could become great teams because of their athletes. This is a really interesting comment here, because I think one of the biggest moves that Ryan Smith, Danny Ainge, that this group made was moving on from Quinn Snyder. I think that was a huge move for this team, and I think Will Hardy's the right guy. But I've been surprised that a lot of Jazz fans are wondering if Will Hardy is a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think Will Hardy's done a pretty good job with this team, but you knew there were going to be growing pains with Will Hardy. Is this Jazz team better with Will Hardy or with Quinn Snyder? I don't think there's any doubt they're better with Will Hardy. There's no doubt about that. That doesn't mean that Quinn Snyder doesn't have a place in the league or that Quinn Snyder did a bad job for this team, because he didn't. But they needed to move on from Quinn. And I think Will Hardy's the right guy, because you're going to be bad for 2-3 years, right? I think we all realize that.
Yeah.
You're going to be bad.
Well, that was the game plan.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong. Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with hiring a young coach who's going to make mistakes. He has made mistakes, in my opinion, but you're not going to see those mistakes repeated over and over again. And I think that's why Will Hardy's the right guy at the right time for this club. Will he be the head coach when they win a championship? I don't know. That's to be determined. Maybe, maybe not. But right now, I think Will Hardy's the right guy.
I think it's unfair to compare Will and Quinn, because I think, one, success for Quinn was very clear. Get to the Western Conference Finals. That was success. Anything short of that is not successful. Don't care what your regular season record was, right? But success for Will Hardy looks very different, and I think this is why people are asking the question if he's a good head coach, because success really is not, hey, get to this juncture of the season or get to this team achievement, right? That's not success this year. This year's success is develop guys. Well, what does that look like? That's an opinionated thing, right? like we can sit here and say, well, Colin Sexton is developing, and then maybe he thinks he's not, or you know what I mean? Like it's just such a cloudy thing for Will right now. That's why I think you got to have patience with it.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, how about that? Nameless Ghoul 911.
Welcome.
Is our newest member. Make sure you DM us. By the way, as you become a member, DM The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show on Instagram, and we will put you into the exclusive members-only group. Appreciate that, Nameless School. Richard McDonald says, Smith definitely has deep enough pockets. I guess we'll find out how willing to dig into them he is. The black jerseys are dog S. Okay, so they're actually the only ones I like. And it'll be interesting. Austin Napierski's going to the Jazz game with us next week.
Yeah.
And one of the things you'll get, by the way, when you become a member of the channel is you're going to find out about our promotions first. But Austin Napierski won the Jazz promotion where we take him +1 to the Jazz game against Donnie and the Cavs. I'm interested to see what Austin Napierski's going to do.
Yeah.
Is Austin going to get a jersey, a sweatshirt? What's he going to get? We're going to buy him something in the team store. It'll be interesting to see what he gets.
Yeah.
Richard, thanks for the $10 tip. Appreciate that. Eric in Raleigh says Quinn Snyder did the very best with the talent he had. They just had the Warriors in their way. Well,
I think there's something to that, but I think that that's a great point, Eric. I think that locally people had a lot of emotion around Donovan and Rudy and Quinn in that dynamic. And I think that at the end, because of what happened, people lose sight of what this team was in their prime. And I think that's a shame, but
yes,
I think it's the natural occurrence of how sports goes. When you get heartbroken in sports, you don't give a damn that you know, you don't care about, you know, Donovan Mitchell doing this or Rudy Gobert doing that, or you know, like you don't care about a 60-win season or whatever they had when they were the #1 seed. You know, like
That's
you don't
right.
care about any of that.
That's right. Yep.
All you care about is, our team sucks now. Now what? Now I got to wait till football season? Is that what you're telling me? That's the problem.
Man. Kenai Johnson did us all dirty. He brought up the name Ty Corbin. Whoever don't like Will Hardy is the fan that wants Ty Corbin back as head coach. Kenai, let's not go overboard.
Savage.
Let's not go overboard because I think we all are well aware nobody wants Ty Corbin to be the head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants Ty Corbin to be the head coach. Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. All of our Jazz talk on this show presented by Quick Quack Car Wash. Make sure you go and hook it up at Quick Quack. You know it's supposed to rain and snow this afternoon. No problem. Quick Quack Car Wash has you in and out in 5 minutes. I go to the one in South Jordan at the District, and as I always tell you, I love that I don't have to talk to a machine. I do. Jake is a big fan of the self-checkout. I am not. Self-checkout is dumb.
Self-checkout's different than a car wash, though, and that's why we love Quick Quack, because you get a person when you're sitting in your car. Like, one of my biggest pet peeves in life, whether I'm at Quick Quack or, you know, I'm in a parking garage or whatever.
A parking garage is the best.
Like, one of my biggest pet peeves is you got to, when you're going to a Jazz game, right? You're going to a Jazz game, and we all know that garage that's got, like, the 10-foot curb that you're worried about while you're trying to pull up to the little kiosk and you're reaching for your life. You don't have to do that at Quick Quack. You roll up. They ask you for your name, or they take your plate. They know your name, and you're good to go. Like, it's
and
just
the guy
easy.
always says, "Hey, Monty, how are you?"
Yeah,
he doesn't know who I am.
Yeah,
but because he puts my license plate in there and has my name in there, he hands me. They give you a free dashboard wipe. Like, it's great. Bring the kids too, because there's a bunch of colors and lights and stuff. Quick Quack Car Wash presents all of our Utah Jazz talk on the Monty Show. No to that dirty name. Luis Capazzo says exactly right. Exactly right. Can I, man, don't ever bring up that name again. Do not.
I'm going to get medieval on your ass.
And let's be honest, though. Ty was a good dude. Ty is a nice dude. Ty's a nice guy. Ty Corbin's a good...
He was a fill-in for the guy who replaced the guy who replaced the guy. Like, that's what Ty was.
Totes. I totally agree with that. Josh Lovering, good morning. He says, Will Hardy is a quality coach. Is Will a yes man, though? Well, he could be. He absolutely could be.
Right now he is.
And you kind of need him to be because... Again, maybe Ochai Agbaji is the best example of this. Maybe Nickeil Alexander-Walker is the best example of this. You need to be able to go to Will Hardy and say, hey, we need to get Ochai more minutes. We need to really understand where he is and where he can go. Does he need more G League time? Does it, like, that's the biggest question. Because what I can tell you is if Will Hardy doesn't want to play Ochai Agbaji, it's a problem.
Yeah.
If Will Hardy doesn't want to give Walker Kessler more minutes, it's a problem.
Well, and I think the cool thing with Will is you see what he wants to do, and then he just goes and does it. Like, I think it was really smart by him. Like, take the Nickeil Alexander-Walker thing, the NAW and THT situation for minutes distribution.
Yes.
NAW just came in and took those minutes, right? And the source of that was Will giving NAW extra minutes for one game, right? One game got NAW all these extra minutes now. And he's cooled off a little bit, and he's no longer everyone's, sliced bread, if you will, but he's still getting good minute distribution. And now it's up to Agbaji to do that same kind of thing. The problem is for whatever reason, Agbaji just is not making the three at the NBA level, which is fascinating to me because it is the same game. It's just faster. That's it. Like, the game moves faster. And to me, I think he's just adjusting to that. The line doesn't move, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference.
Are you surprised that Talon Horton Tucker has not played a single minute?
Treat snoring and sleep apnea with no masks and no tubes. Just better, healthier sleep with Sound Sleep Medical. Use code MONTY, M-O-N-T-Y, to schedule a free sleep assessment today.
And I'm going back through his game log. I don't see that he's played a game since December 22nd.
Yeah, it's a long time, dude.
Are you surprised that he has fallen so quickly out of favor, THT?
On some level, but also not so much. Like, on some level, yes, because he can shoot it a little bit. He's got a good body. Like, he can do some things. The problem is he shoots it too much, right? He doesn't have a good grip on when he should play within the set or when he needs to create, because that's his strength. He can create for himself.
Yeah.
And that's the trouble on this team. Like the Jordan Clarksons, even NAW, even sometimes Mike. Like, these guys got to find that balance of when to create for themselves and when to run the set.
Yes, I agree. Salty Drunk, who's a member of this channel now, thank you, sir. Didn't the front office have problems with Quinn on minutes distribution? They did.
Yeah, they did.
Your guy Joe Ingles was one of those guys.
Yeah, they were pissed he wasn't playing Joe enough.
Yeah.
And I think that
Absolutely.
I think, this conversation around, is Will Hardy a yes man? He needs to be a yes man, whether he wants to be or not, because he and Danny Ainge are buddy-buddy. And I guarantee you, Danny said, hey, if you're going to take this job, this is, you're going to have to be a yes man here on some level.
And I think the Joe Ingles minutes thing, I mean, you were playing him too much. Now you're not playing him enough. Like, it became uncomfortable. So I agree with that. Maury Alvarez, who's also a member, thank you for that. Ty Corbin was a good player, loved him, but a horrible coach.
Yeah.
Ty Corbin's a DePaul Blue Demon. He went to DePaul in Chicago. That's my guy, but not as a coach. He's a great assistant. He is a great assistant.
Yep. And that's okay. I hate when we're like, oh, well, dude is only capable of being a great assistant, as if that's not a great thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that is a great skill.
Yep, I agree. Richard McDonald says, how do I join? I'm late today. Again, not to be Mr. Sales guy.
No, do it. Yeah, do it.
But there is the join link right there.
So,
I just put it in the comment.
2 minutes on this. YouTube is working on renovating the mobile app that a lot of you guys watch on. And so right now, with the membership thing that we're talking about today, there's not a join button on the mobile app if you're watching,
which is where everybody watches this show.
And YouTube knows that, right? So, like, YouTube is working on adding that, but it's not there right now. So you can find the link in the chat. He's just put it in there. Or you can just go to his Twitter, The Monty Show. And that's where I would recommend you go. That's probably the easiest if you have any trouble with that link, which I don't think you should. But if you do, just go to his Twitter, and it's right at the top there.
Totally agree. BB says, Rudy gave minutes over young guys. Will Hardy, come on. Well, and I actually don't disagree with this at all, BB. I think you're exactly right. I think it's very difficult to continue to watch Rudy Gay take minutes on this team. And it doesn't matter who you want to play. Give somebody else Rudy Gay's minutes, because he's got value. He just doesn't have value to a rebuilding team. Rudy Gay needs to be the 10-11 guy on a Milwaukee Buck team. He needs to be the 10-11 guy on a Brooklyn team. Go somewhere where they need a little bit of offense and not a whole lot of defense, because he just is not a guy, in my opinion, that can defend at a high level right now, but he can defend the 4-5 a little bit. And his highest value to me is as a spot-up three-point shooter. That's what he does well. I don't want him dribbling a whole lot, even though I know the other day he dropped what's his name from the Heat in the corner there, hit that jumper. Like, that's all well and good. But the turnovers, it's just not. He's not a fit. Rudy Gay's not a fit on this team.
He misses a lot of shots that are gimmies.
Yeah, he's not a great fit.
Yeah.
Pied Piper, join the membership. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Remember, for the Instagram group, you need to DM us because Instagram and YouTube aren't connected. So there's a lot of you joining. Please DM us on Instagram so we can add you after the show.
Yeah, and the details are, hey, if you're a member on our show, if you subscribe to our membership, it's $10 a month. You're going to get exclusive video content every day. We make a video just for our members, and then we're going to have a Instagram group that we already have, by the way. And again, shout out to Arlington Bears. He was the first member of the show. He was the first member of that group. But that group is together, and we're going to chat. Like during the Jazz game tonight, we'll be chatting in that group with you guys about Jazz basketball. Ken Scott, the former Utah alum, is on the show in an hour from now talking Utah football in the direction of the program. We'll chat about that stuff. Like, you'll always get access to things first. You'll always get access to our insider information.
When we do giveaways.
What giveaways? You'll be the first one to have access to merch. So, yeah, absolutely. Join. Appreciate you doing that. Also, Richard McDonald, thank you. He is also now a member of our little YouTube community. Appreciate you doing that. Salty Drunk says Rudy Gay needs to be Blake Griffin. He does.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
He does.
I think Blake did a great job of sort of, transforming himself into that, firecracker off the bench. And I think it elongated his career for sure.
Yep. Chase Everett says, if tanking is part of the strategy, now is the time to experiment with lineups. Tanking's such an interesting word because as we talk Utah Jazz basketball on the Monty Show, I just don't know. Tanking in its traditional form is not what this team is doing. I mean, you don't tank and lose games by 2 points.
Right.
You do what San Antonio did last night, which is just not inbound the ball and turn it over.
No.
That's what you do when you're tanking. You play all of your young guys. You don't play Rudy Gay minutes when you're tanking. This team's clearly not tanking in the traditional I'm tanking mode, right? I think what you're seeing, though, is I don't think it's the end of the world when this team loses a game. And I think it's really interesting that when you look at these things and you start to understand where this Jazz team is, I think there's a lot of opportunity for this team.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of, do you want this team to make the playoffs or not? But let's be really clear on one thing. They're not in the hunt from a win-loss perspective for Victor Wembanyama. Probably not for Scoot Henderson. Like, you want those guys, you're going to have to trade up to get them. Mm-hmm. The problem is their draft assets are not great. If we're truth-telling on this show, and that's what we say, hey, the Monty Show is the truth in Salt Lake sports talk. If we're truth-telling on this show, their draft assets are not great. I don't know that their draft assets alone would move them up into position to draft Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, it almost feels like the draft asset situation or conversation very much feels like, hey, you have a lot of draft assets, and that's what's going to be the value, not so much that those draft assets are like the best thing we've ever seen in the draft. That I think is the difference that's kind of come to light. And that's why I say, like, when we were talking earlier about like rebuilding paths, like the way the Jazz are doing it, or the way the Rockets are doing it, or even like the way the Brooklyn Nets did it, right? Yeah. Acquiring all this talent, it's very clear. The teams that do it quickly and do it properly are rare, but when they do it, it's very successful. And that's why I say, as a Jazz fan, don't hold or hinge on win-loss. That's not what That's not what you should be doing. What you should be doing is hinge on comments like BB had, or some of these other guys have had about, hey, like, why are we playing Rudy Gay over young guys? Those are the wins or losses within these games right now.
Yeah, totally agree. And I am a Nickeil Alexander-Walker fan. I want to see more. I want to see more from him. I want to see more from Ochai. I want to see more from Walker Kessler. I think we're watching almost on a minute-to-minute basis Walker Kessler become a better player. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So I want to see more from him for sure. Luis Capazzo says, all those slivers from riding the pine has got to hurt. Someone get THT a pair of tweezers and a mirror. He needs them both. Ooh, cold-blooded, bro. But I don't disagree.
Got to quick, not to sidetrack the show. In our Instagram group, because I just want to keep talking about this, Chris Karn has graduated from watching us on a phone to watching us on this new TV he just bought.
Really?
Yeah. So now he's on the new TV. So
I like it.
And he's hung it on the wall, and he's got his little sound bar.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty slick, dude.
I like it.
Nice
Way to
work.
go, Chris Karn.
Nice work, dude.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I love guys that watch us on TV. That's phenomenal. Appreciate that. Let's see. Richard McDonald says, if y'all here every day, buy super chats or memberships. These boys need support, or we will eventually won't be able to do this with each other. Great little community going here. It's not a matter of join the membership because we're desperate.
Yeah.
What it is it buys time. That's what it does. And we're looking for ways to be more interactive. I think one of the wins on this show, not to be arrogant about it, but one of the wins on the show is we're constantly talking with you guys. We tweet with you. We Instagram with you. We talk with you on the show. Like, the show is over and then it just keeps on going.
Yeah.
Because we're talking to you guys. We're like a 365 community here. Like, it's every day. Like, that's what this is about. And yeah, I appreciate that, Richard. Thank you for the support. Chase Average says, yeah, Instagram is all part of the metaverse, not the Google umbrella. Yeah, it is absolutely.
We really considered that too. It's funny you bring that up because we literally had that conversation yesterday about like, well, great, we're asking our listeners and our viewers to pay for something, right? Which we haven't done really before. I mean, we've done some light merch stuff.
We've really tried to stay away from it.
Yeah, we've tried to stay away from asking you guys to pay for stuff, but we felt like, hey, if we're going to ask you to pay for something, we want to make sure that we bring as much value as we can possibly bring. And so, to Richard's comment there and to what you said, like, it's not necessarily that we need the money per se, but if we're going to, what allows us to bring you more of that content and more of that interaction and more of that behind the scenes personal time is time. Right? So that is the trade-off, and that's essentially what you're paying for is time and more interaction and more personalized stuff. And I know I keep saying this, knowing about the giveaways in the future is a big deal because you are going to have to get into those giveaways. The earlier you're in, the better chance you're going to have.
And members always get 5-to-1 entries. So
and that too.
If you're not a member, you get 1 entry. If you're a member of the show, you get 5 entries. So you have 5 times more chance to win a weekend at spring training with us than you do somebody who's not a member. Things like that. Yeah. That's why you become a member. All right, talking Jazz basketball. Jazz, by the way, is anybody surprised that the Jazz are a 6-point favorite and the money line is minus 250?
Yeah, I think this game is going to be a barn burner tonight. I think the 232 number, in my opinion, is a little light. I think this is 100. This is like 120, 118. This is like low 120s to high teens kind of game. And the 232 number kind of suggests that 117-ish area where I feel like one of these two teams, and it could be the Rockets. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm just over the moon confident about the Jazz in this game, but I do think one of these teams is going to crack like 120, 125.
But when's the last time the Jazz were this awful on the money line? Like, you have to bet $250 to win $100. Like, who's doing that?
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. The line on the game tonight tells you, let's see. Eric and Raleigh says, when are you guys going to expand the network and new shows to follow your show? Oh, God, why did you bring this up? Take over the Salt Lake City market. Jake absolutely rides me about this on a regular basis. Yeah. We talk about it all the time.
I think, I have no problem talking about it a little bit. Like, I think that's in the cards for sure. It's funny you bring that up. I think the conundrum is that if we're going to add somebody or we're going to bring someone into the fold, the quality can't go down and the feel of it can't change too much. Well, and that's what we're hesitant on.
The X and O's is we've built a really strong algorithm with YouTube.
Yeah.
We have if you search Utah Jazz, you're going to see 1,000 of our videos. If you search BYU football, BYU, Utah football, like, you're going to see the Monty Show.
Amazon deal.
You're going to see the Monty Show. We've built a really strong algorithm because you guys do a great job supporting the show. You click the like button, which is a huge part of that. That's why we're constantly telling you, hey, give us a thumbs up, please. When you look at how long our average watch time is through the roof, man, like, people watch this show for 20 to 25 minutes a day. That stuff makes a huge difference. If you bring in a new show and you put them on your YouTube channel and people watch for 3 minutes and they don't hit the like button, it absolutely tanks the entire channel.
Yeah.
So it's something that you really have to calculate. You have to be really careful. Anton says, I'm not familiar with what that -6,232 means. So what that means is, and it's always next to the favorites team. So let me put this banner back up here. What this graphic right here means is, and read it from left to right with me, Utah Jazz -6. They're a 6-point favorite. 232.5. The over-under is 232.5. The combined score between the two teams is 232.5. That means the boys in Vegas think that both teams are going to score 116 points. Is somebody going to score 117? Is somebody going to score 133 and somebody's going to score 100? Do you think the two teams will combine for more than 232 points combined? That's the question. And then -250 is what we call the money line, right? So if you want to bet on the Jazz tonight just to outright win the game, you have to put $250 down to win 100.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. If there was a +250, that means you'd have to put $100 down to win $250. So it's all gambling ease, and that's what that means. Do you guys care about gambling lines? That's something else we've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
We've talked about that a lot. Let's see. Maury Alvarez, who's a member, says, speaking of, smash the like button, only 36 likes so far. Wow, is that? Yes. We've had almost 1,000 views, and we have 39 likes. That hurts my groinial region.
The Monty Show.
The Utah Jazz versus Jordan Clarkson. A battle to the contract death.
Right.
Should the Utah Jazz extend Jordan Clarkson? Is Jordan Clarkson a guy that when you're looking at a salary cap where you could imagine paying JC $20 million a year? I said $20 million a year.
Yeah.
That is nothing to cough at.
Right.
Thank you. I'm not paying Jordan Clarkson $20 million a year, and let's get right into it here on the Monty Show. By the way, a huge announcement coming at 7:15. You don't want to miss that. Jordan Clarkson for $20 million a year. There's a lot of conversation around this because obviously Jordan Clarkson's a heck of a basketball player. He's been somebody that's been critically important to this Utah Jazz team. But at what price? And really what this comes down to is Jordan Clarkson wants to be a starter and wants to be paid like a starter. And he'd like upwards of $20 million per season on a minimum of a 3-year deal. Jake, are you doing that?
No, I mean, I think for this Jazz team, you can't do it. I don't think that Jordan is worth it. I think that he's been a great guy for the organization, but I don't think that means that you should overpay him or overcommit to him. And the reason I say that is because there's a bigger picture here that you're working on that is more important than one guy. And this is why I've continued to say I don't understand why we get the Ryan Smith tweets about certain players or like we get any kind of commitment to anybody because that's not how the NBA works. The NBA is a business. The NBA is a cold-blooded thing. Like, hey, if you want to be a starter and you want to be paid $20 million, then inherently you don't want to be a Utah Jazz man, and that's fine. But to me, what this signals is they need to trade Jordan Clarkson. You need to move him before this year's over so that he doesn't just walk away with you getting nothing. That's what I think the real conundrum here is. And that's where I say, okay, you're in a good place because Danny Ainge is a business guy. Danny Ainge isn't Mr. Hey, your name is Joe Ingles or your name is Jordan Clarkson, so that means you're exempt from being traded. Like, he's not that guy. He is the guy that says, all right, we're going to make it known that Jordan's available. People are going to call and we're going to do a deal. I mean, that's just what it is. And so to me, I don't think there's any place in this organization to be paying Jordan Clarkson $20 a year and extending him, probably at least 2 years, if not a third-year option?
Oh, I think the Jazz would have to give Jordan Clarkson 3 years. And at this point, the Utah Jazz giving Jordan Clarkson 3 years and $60 million minimum, and you're probably $66, $68 million at the end of the day on a deal like that. I don't know how you do that. Not where you are now, not at this space and time. And again, this is no indictment on what Jordan Clarkson means to the Utah Jazz. I'm not saying that Jordan Clarkson's bad for the Utah Jazz or that he's a bad player, but where the Utah Jazz are at this space and time, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to overpay to keep Jordan Clarkson. Now, obviously, the issue is that he's got some freedom coming up, and I think Jordan Clarkson wants to go to NBA free agency. I think that's a big part of it as well. And clearly, Jordan Clarkson wants to win. And I don't for a minute believe that the Utah Jazz are going to go long term without winning. I don't. But it's probably this year and next year where you're not competing for an NBA championship. And if I'm Jordan Clarkson, he's 30 years old now. He's on the wrong side of 30, Jake. I don't know how patient he can be.
No, I don't think he can be patient. That's why I say this doesn't have to turn into some like personal thing. This doesn't have to turn into some dramatic like, oh, it's Jordan Clarkson fighting the Utah Jazz. He's squaring up against Danny Ainge in the front office, in his office. No, that's not what this is. This is business. A player wants to be played a certain amount or wants to be paid a certain amount. And the Jazz, that doesn't fit into the Jazz structure. And that's why I say, I know that Jordan Clarkson is beloved by everyone. I know that everybody loved Jordan Clarkson squaring up against Bane last night, and he's a tough guy.
Which, by the way, I thought was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
And at some point, if you're the Jazz and Jordan Clarkson, and this is very, very reminiscent of Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
You got to stop this because nobody is scared of Jordan Clarkson. That was a ridiculous foul on Desmond Bane. I have no idea what Jordan was thinking there. By the way, this is a team that's now lost 7 of 8 games. They're a game out of a playoff spot in the Western Conference. Like, all signs are pointing in the wrong direction if you're the Jazz. And then Jordan Clarkson comes out of the box, slams Bane upside his dome, gets ejected for it. Like, it was just really dumb.
Catch me outside. How about that?
It was really not smart.
Yeah.
And this is the second time this year he's done the, hey, you want to throw, let me bow up to you thing?
Yeah.
Come on, JC.
Yeah.
Be better than that.
Real tough guy, Jordan.
Be better than that. And the hard part about this is the Jazz are losing games in ugly fashion. You're losing games that you should probably win. And you have 21 turnovers last night. And it just, and Jordan's part of that, obviously, but this team should be winning more games than they're winning. And it's just this stretch of the season where you're just trying to get to the All-Star break now.
Yeah.
Like, you're just trying to manage yourselves so that you don't lose 15 out of 20.
Well, and I also think
15 out of 18.
This dynamic where Jordan Clarkson knows his value and knows that he's one of the best players on this team. And so he probably feels like he can do kind of whatever he wants to do. Obviously, there's a line with everything, but that's Jordan is just, I don't know. I'm just over the tough guy thing in Utah. There hasn't been a guy wearing a Jazz uniform who's been a tough guy in I don't know how long. Jordan Clarkson's not a tough guy. Rudy wasn't a tough guy. You're not. That's just not who this team is. With all due respect. So,
but even more than that, you can't get ejected there. This team needs Jordan Clarkson if they are to win games.
Yeah,
you have to understand who you are and where you are.
But no one's going to disrespect me.
But nobody was disrespecting you. You slammed Bane upside the dome, bro. What did you think they were going to do?
I'm not afraid to die.
It was just a really bad foul. But having said that, Desmond Bane getting inside of people's heads, man. That's what that guy does so well.
Yeah.
And if you're Jordan Clarkson, you got to know that. You got to know that, and you got to respect that. It was a surprising lapse. It was a surprising lapse.
And I don't know why. You know what I think is funny? So Draymond Green's the guy that everyone likes to criticize. Oh, well, Draymond just likes to pick fights, and Draymond likes to cause drama. And
right.
Draymond's Mr. Technical Foul in the NBA. But you have the same behavior here now, right? It is the same behavior. Jordan Clarkson, I don't buy for a second that Jordan Clarkson didn't know what he was doing.
No.
Jordan Clarkson knew what he was doing and wanted to pick up a technical in that situation. Or I guess that'd be a flagrant in that situation. You knew what you were doing. So that's why I say I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, he was a real tough guy. I just think that that's the wrong behavior to be displaying on this team. What happened to Jordan Clarkson's a leader, and he's he's somebody that everyone should look up to, and like he's this great guy, and they rewarded him with a starter's role. This is what happens when you start guys who shouldn't start. They get a little too high on their horse, they demand more money, and you wind up trading them. And that's why I say you can't give in to Jordan Clarkson type guy demands. This is Tyler Hero, right? This is the Tyler Hero issue. It's the same thing. So that's why I say I'm just tired of tough guy act around here.
So where do you guys all come down on this? I would love to hear from you on a Jordan Clarkson extension here on the Monty Show, presented by the Advocates, UtahAdvocates.com. I'm curious where you guys are with this. So in the comments right now, are you willing to pay Jordan Clarkson $20+ million a year? That's a huge amount of money. So drop your thoughts in the comments, and we'll read all those comments after this from the Advocates.
We got stuck in traffic at a construction zone, and I got rear-ended at 80 miles an hour, so I needed help. They just stepped in and pretty much took care of everything. If you're in a motor vehicle accident or situation, call the Advocates.
Utah, your best injury attorneys are the Advocates, theadvocates.com. Make sure you hit them up online. You could talk with an attorney 24/7 at theadvocates.com. All right, let's get your thoughts in here. Where you at? First one in this morning is San Diego State Aztec. What's up, my guy? Good to talk to you. He's a member of the show. That means he pays $9.99 a month. He gets access to what has been a blast, by the way.
Yes, absolutely incredible.
Our member-exclusive Instagram conversation group. Watching football yesterday, watching the Jazz game. I mean, we have just had so much fun chatting with all of our members.
So it's been 4 days since we rolled out memberships, right? We rolled them out on Thursday. In those 4 days, you already got trade, insider information, sourced information in the membership-only group. You've gotten 2 videos so far. You're going to get a couple of things this week that the public's not going to get until next week. Like, I'm telling you guys, join the group. I know it's $9.99 a month. I know it's another Netflix subscription.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, it's worth your time.
But, dude, the announcement we're going to make in the exclusive member group today.
It's cash.
And today is the first day that we are going to give something away in the membership group only to those in that group.
Yep.
It is access to a really big deal. We're going to cut a video and announce that today. And in that video, we will announce our first member exclusive prize.
And let's just say it's not a game console, okay?
No.
Let's just say it's something much bigger than that.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. So we will do that video after the show. Hit the join button. Again, I can get you a link to do that as well. Because I know that there's a lot of people, on mobile, and sometimes it can be difficult. I'll pop a link in there for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, join the member exclusive club. It's $9.99 a month. You get in every single day. You get a member exclusive video right here on YouTube, and you also get access to our member exclusive Instagram chat, which
has been amazing.
Yeah, I don't think anybody that is a member, and if you guys want to drop comments, I don't think anybody that's a member even questions whether or not it's worth the $9.99.
Yes.
It has been so good. It has been so good to have everybody in there. And San Diego State Aztec, who's our first comment this morning, absolutely has been a big part of that group. So it's great chatting with you guys. So good to see you, Aztec. Good to see you, Little Jizzy. Says Gluck Luck 5000.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
That's your brand. We get it.
Gage Carter, my guy. Good morning. Sorry I missed the show last week. It was a hectic week. Well, welcome back. Welcome back.
Got a new week.
Salty Drunk, member of the show. Good morning to you. What's up, Carl Loveless? Good to see you. Hope you're not loveless for long. Talking with Raphael podcast on PBS. Says, good morning, casuals. What's up? Giggity, what's up? Hibbs says, shout out to Tyler Algier and Jamal Williams, both setting team records yesterday. How about Swag beating the Packers last night?
Hell yeah.
The most touchdowns, rushing touchdowns in a season in the history of the Detroit Lions, and that includes one Barry Sanders. Now, he has an extra game to do it. Okay, totally cool. But a record's a record. A record's a record. What do you guys think about... Kyle A. says, good morning, fellas, from Disneyland.
Let's go.
Kyle, who's a member, is at Disneyland. How the heck are you? Good to see you, friend. What's the San Diego State says, what's the membership now? It's up to 26. Pretty respectable number. I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
Very happy about that. But San Diego State says no dice on an extension.
I agree.
Funky Orion says $20 million for JC. Nope, too much.
Treat snoring and sleep apnea with no masks and no tubes. Just better, healthier sleep with Sound Sleep Medical. Use code Monty, M-O-N-T-Y, to schedule a free sleep assessment today.
Don't disagree with that. Jake, please don't put anybody in the same breath as Draymond Green. I mean, how can you? He's a legend.
Well, he's getting paid more than $20 million.
I would dare say people on this show do not like Draymond Green. There is very little love or even respect for Draymond. You know. What's up, Mike Maples? Good to see you. D-Rock, how the heck are you? Good morning, everyone. NFL coaches, beware of Black Monday.
Seriously.
Well, I don't know why it's got to be a racial thing, D-Rock. But in my opinion, yeah, today's...
Right.
I think today's a very difficult day. If you didn't see it, Lovie Smith fired moments after the game last night. Lovie is out. The Browns fired their defensive coordinator. Cliffy's got a meeting with the owner. Mr. Bidwell.
Sean McVay's on fire watch.
I think Sean McVay's on resign watch. That's what I think.
Resign. Yeah.
I don't think the Rams would fire him. I think they had it's very difficult to repeat. The LA Rams had the worst season by a Super Bowl champion ever.
Yeah.
A season following a Super Bowl championship.
But you also had a lot of injuries. Like, that's what I'm saying. I'm not necessarily on the fire McVay train.
I am not either.
I think that he deserves another opportunity.
I believe that Sean McVay very likely will take a year off. I think he'll resign, and I think he will take a year off, but that's just my opinion. Court McMullen, what's up, my guy? He says Clarkson and Conley should both be traded by the deadline. Don't disagree with that. Richard McDonald, Filipino genius, or Jesus.
Right.
Jordan Clarkson is beloved in the Philippines. Let's see. Anton, who's a member, says Laurie is getting paid $16.5 million a year.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing with Jordan's deal. Jordan's making 13.5 this year, and I want to say it's 14. I have his numbers right here. He's due for 14.2 on a player option next year, which, let's be honest, Jordan's opting out of that deal.
Right.
Like he is not going to play on that deal.
Yeah.
But as a sixth man, $15 to $17 million in this league's not a lot. Paying Jordan Clarkson to be a starter at $22 million a year is too much. I just can't see doing that.
Yeah.
I can't see doing it. That's just me, though. Troy Cushing, who is a member. Thank you, Troy. Morning, Monty and Jake. Do you think Jordan's decision not to sign is because they are going to trade? I don't think so. I think Jordan Clarkson, if you offered him $68 million over 3 years, he'd sign a deal today. But the Jazz are not going to do that. Because, again, I ask you as a Jazz fan, and if you're a Jordan Clarkson fan, and I know there are a lot of Jordan Clarkson fans that watch this show, I think we have 7% of our viewership is in the Philippines for a very obvious reason. Ask yourself this question. If you're a championship team, if you are the Boston Celtics, if you are the Denver Nuggets, if you are the whoever, is Jordan Clarkson going to Milwaukee and being a starting two guard? No, he's probably not. He's not starting over Chris Middleton. Is Jordan Clarkson going to the Golden State Warriors as a starter? No, he's not. He's not starting over Wiggins. Like you if we're truth telling on this show,
yeah,
and this is the truth in Salt Lake City Sports Talk, Jordan Clarkson's not a starter on a championship caliber team. He's not. He is a wonderful contributor as a sixth man. And is he worth $20 million a year? Not on my team, he's not. I'm willing to pay him 17, 18 max. But if you look at what that is, that's $6 to $8 million over the life of contract. That's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
That is a lot of money. That is a role player. That is depth. That is, $8 million I can put into a free agent deal. $8 million of cap space more to help me be flexible and trade for a stud. Like, that's a lot of money in terms of flexibility for an NBA team, especially a team like the Jazz that's been pushing or over the luxury tax limit for the last several years. You're trying to get your financial house in order. You don't get in financial order by overpaying the first contract you write. I just can't see doing that, especially when Lauri Markkanen is on such a very team-friendly deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that Jordan just... You have to understand your value. I mean,
yes.
I think it's not too harsh to say he wouldn't start on a championship team. He just wouldn't. And I think that if you're Jordan Clarkson, your perspective has to be that you're on a bad team and you have to make a decision. Do I want to get the bag and play on a crap team, or do I want to win championships? And either way, it's fine, because as a six-man, you're essentially just a paid assassin, right? You're paid to get buckets. That's it. Like, you don't have to worry about playing elite defense. You don't have to worry about being a team guy. Like, just come off the bench and put the ball in the hole and then go take a seat and don't be a problem. That's it. It's not that hard, man. And to me, I just think that that's what Jordan does. That's his game. And it is frustrating to watch Jordan regularly drive into the paint and turn it over. It's frustrating to watch him brick threes and then make a bunch of threes. He's just such a hot and cold player. That's the hard part. So to me, I would trade him. I don't have any dog in this fight. Like, I just would ship him out, get some value back. I don't know what that looks like. Danny's gonna have to figure that out. But get some value back and move on with your life.
But again, what I say about this is this not the perfect situation to make a John Collins trade? Is this not the perfect situation where, if you're the Phoenix Suns and you can end up with Jordan Clarkson, would you rather have Jordan Clarkson or Malik Beasley? I think that's a lot more difficult of an answer than one would think, because the knee-jerk reaction is to say, well, I'd rather have Jordan Clarkson. Well, yeah, not so fast, my friends. I don't know that I can say that. You going to make it over there?
It's early.
I don't know that I can say that.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of value in, if you're a championship contender, I think the three-point percentage, I think the mid-range game that comes with Malik Beasley, but I also think the emotional composure that comes with Malik Beasley is a hell of a lot more valuable in Game 5 of an NBA Finals than what you're going to get from Jordan Clarkson.
No, I agree with that 100%. And I think that that's a question, if you're a postseason team, you have to ask. I mean, emotions with... No, you're going to make it over there? You're going to make it over there?
What are you talking? I'm just popping a Schlitz, bro.
Right, a Schlitz, right. Well, you're not even gonna slurp it for us? There you go. See?
Slurp what?
There you go. Thank you.
Just trying to contribute to the ball club, coach.
Right.
I think the emotional composure piece is a huge problem for Jordan Clarkson. That's just me. I don't pretend that Jordan Clarkson is, some huge problem for this club, because I don't think he is.
Right.
I think Jordan Clarkson's a wonderful contributor to this team. But this is a team that's not in contention in any way, shape, or form. The Utah Jazz, I don't know how many people realize this. The Utah Jazz are out of a playoff spot by a game now.
Mm-hmm.
They have lost 7 of 8. You have a guy in Donnie and the Cavs coming in that you're probably going to lose 8 of 9 after tomorrow night, which, by the way, and it should be pointed out, today is National Austin Day.
Right.
Which means if your name is Austin, today is your holiday.
Right.
But Austin Napierski +1, Jake and I are going to the Jazz game tomorrow night.
Right.
And Austin, by the way, seems to be a very smart, level-headed individual, because he said he's going to get a sweatshirt, not a jersey.
There you go. See? He gets it.
But Austin won our Utah Jazz +1 contest when we got to 9,000 subs. We appreciate that. But, at the end of the day, this is not a championship caliber team right now. And if we're truth-telling, you are in a rebuild mode. There's no doubt about that. I want to see far more from Nickeil Alexander-Walker the rest of the year. I want to know what I have in, and Nickeil just happens to play a very similar spot as Jordan. That's why I use him.
Right.
I want to know what I have in Nickeil much more, because I already know what I have in Jordan. I am not saying you trade Jordan Gold because he sucks.
Right.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the Utah Jazz should trade Jordan Clarkson, because I believe he can get you a first-round pick.
Yeah.
That's why I would trade him. I believe that guys like Malik Beasley and Jordan Clarkson are incredibly valuable when it comes to trading for draft capital. And if I can get a John Collins and Phoenix can wind up with a Beasley, and a Vando, and, you're looking at, a situation where you got to include a Jordan Clarkson and a THT or a Malik Beasley, I'm happy to do that.
Right.
I'm happy to do that. I am happy to do that instead of overpaying Jordan Clarkson on the wrong side of 30 when I'm trying to contend for a championship in 2 years.
Come on, man.
That's just not smart business.
Yeah.
And I think Jazz fans in particular as a fan base have trouble separating those emotions. We saw this all through the Donnie and Rudy deals.
Yeah.
Where you couldn't separate emotion to understand the Rudy Gobert trade is likely a felony if Danny Ainge is wearing a mask and a gun because of the level, the absolute level of theft that was perpetrated against the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yes.
And I turn around and I look at the Cavs trade, and while it wasn't the absolute heist that the Rudy deal was, they got a boatload for Don.
That's right, T.
So you're in a position now where you're a game out of a playoff spot.
Yeah.
Are we trying to emotionally connect to a player? Or are we trying to get everything we can get to win a championship in the next 5 years?
I don't understand why it's got to be like that. If I'm being really honest, like I don't think that emotionally connecting to players during a rebuild is smart business. You know what I mean? Like it's a transient situation you're in, right? You're not in, hey, we got 5 guys and we're going on a 3-year championship window, dude. You're in a position where you're signing guys, you're trading guys, you're moving guys. So I'm just telling you as a Jazz fan, don't get so invested. They're like, damn, we traded Jordan, or damn, we traded Beasley or Vando or whatever.
Hey, it's Bees.
Bees. Sorry,
it's
bro.
Bees.
Damn.
On the broadcast where they use all the cool hip names that we're not privy to, it's Bees.
Whoever came up with that shit need to be fired.
Come on, bro.
I think it was Jake Gordon who came up with Bees and is now a member of the show.
Let's go.
Hey, let's go, Jake Gordon.
Let's go.
My guy. Appreciate that, man. Welcome to the club. Appreciate you. And hey, look, back to back. Look at Maples. Mike Maples in the hizzy. Let's go, Maples. Good to see you, buddy. Appreciate that. It is so flattering that now 30 of you just about have decided to support our show every month.
Yeah.
Like that's unbelievable.
And please don't forget to DM me, SLC Jake, so I can add you to the Instagram group if you want to be. Obviously, if you don't want to be, that's fine, but that's a big part of the membership, like being able to interact with us and having offline like that's a big part of it. So I would encourage you.
And again, we've had great conversation. The Instagram group is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It is just so much fun.
We had a conversation last night in the group about like what we're doing this week and what we're trying to accomplish, and like we were talking about Sunday Night Football and swag.
Aaron Rodgers choking on a D. Like, it was amazing. I don't believe that was said in that group. But anyway, the point is, yeah, the group has been so much fun. So to get into the exclusive Monty Only members group on Instagram, you must join the show. And what that means is you click that join link I put in the comments. You hook it up for $9.99 a month, and then you DM Jake, and he will put you into the Instagram-only members group. So welcome to Mike Maples and Jake Gordon, our 2 newest members. Jake said, also just acquired my Monty membership. Damn right you did. Let's go, Jake. Appreciate you. Anton says, what do you guys think of the Suns ATM at the moment? Just imagine if they drafted Tyrese Halliburton instead of Jalen Smith. And by the way, Jalen Smith has turned into a nice little contributor in this league.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. Can you imagine Tyrese Halliburton on the Suns? I
think the what if game is the bane of everyone's existence. You know, what if this? What if that?
Well, what if the Jazz had drafted? What if the Jazz had drafted Desmond Bane instead, which they had access to?
Or what if the Jazz had drafted Devin Booker? Oh, I don't know. Maybe that would have worked out a little differently. But the point is that the Suns are in a position where they have expectations. There's no way around it. And the problem is they're in this weird place where if you wind the clocks back, the Ayton and Monty Williams thing happened where they had that beef because Ayton didn't play the last playoff game, and now the Sarver thing came out and he still hasn't sold the team, so now you got to run all your trades by him and he's got to sign off on that.
The Phoenix Suns are in this weird little place.
And if I'm Devin Booker, I see LeBron, imprisoned on an awful Lakers roster. And I'm like, dude, I need to get there. I need to help LeBron win 2 more rings, and then those will be my first 2 rings, and we'll ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just think the LeBron comments over the weekend, that interview he did with Dave McMenamin,
which we got to talk about,
Yeah, and I also think he said this losing thing is killing me. We'll talk about all that coming up in a bit. All of our Utah Jazz talk and NBA talk on this show is presented by Quick Quack Car Wash. You're seeing them all over the valley. A major expansion in our communities here in Utah. Quick Quack Car Wash. Those are all owned by individual entrepreneurs who are building something great in their lives. That's why you support Quick Quack Car Wash. That's why we work with them, because they're local businesses. And, oh, by the way, they do a great job. You already know at Quick Quack Car Wash, when you go there, you deal with really cool people. You don't deal with a machine where you got to reach for your credit card. No. Dude, guy walks up to your car. He's wearing a tie. He's got a smile on his face. It's professional. It's cordial. And by the way, bring the kids to Quick Quack Car Wash because it's fun. They've got a bunch of different lights. They've got all kinds of different colors. And it's a really fun experience at Quick Quack Car Wash. And you're in and out of there in 5 minutes. That's what I love about it. Quick Quack Car Wash presents all of our Utah Jazz and NBA talk on the show. Hey, how about Court McMullen joining the show?
Go.
Let's go.
Keep that chime going, baby.
Let's go. Court McMullen on the program.
Appreciate
Good to see you.
Appreciate
Court
you.
says Jazz fans continually long for a player to be able to invest in for 15 years, like the good old days of Stockton and Malone. Well, you're not wrong about that. You're not wrong about that. Court also says the best nickname for Beasley is Beazles.
Okay.
Is that his nickname?
Are they calling him Beazles?
Is that what that Beazles?
Okay.
What's a good nickname for Malik Beasley? The Beezinator? Beezerific?
Beazless.
That sounds oddly awkward. Beazless. No, we don't need to do that. Let's see. D-Rock says, congratulations to the 2022 FCS national champion, South Dakota State. It was the Jackrabbits. Okay. Jake Gordon says, whoa, Monty, don't throw me under the bus like that.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? How'd I throw you under the bus? San Diego State says, Monty's life hacks in the membership group are great, too. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Troy Cushing says, hey, can I get the Instagram from Jake to join? Thanks, Jake. Yeah, absolutely. DM Jake, SLC Jake.
Yeah, that's me.
On Twitter and Instagram.
And by the way, follow me too, you hacks.
Yeah, you hacks. You can find me.
I need 1,000 followers.
You still don't have that?
No.
Really?
I'm not official.
I mean, people. Well, I think it's just that people don't like you.
I have 963.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I'm slacking, bro.
Follow Jake on Twitter and Insta, SLC Jake.
Yeah.
If you are a member, an exclusive member, DM Jake. He will put you in the Instagram group. But a lot of people have asked to get in that group. You must join. You must have a Monty Show membership. For $9.99 a month. To get into the exclusive Instagram group. Yeah. But I'm telling you, it's worth it. It's worth it. It is that Instagram group is worth $10 a month, in my opinion. Salty Drunk, I'm not sure if any other Jazz fans feel the same, but with all these longtime Jazz players leaving or left, it's hard to sustain the same level of emotional connection. Maybe it's just me. Well, and I also think, Salty, you're a Joe Ingles guy. So you're attached to Joe, but that's what this league has become.
Yes.
And I think we've talked about this on a pretty regular basis. This is a players league. Like, I'm a Devin Booker fan.
Yeah.
Right? So I naturally watch more Suns games. By team, I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, so I watch a ton of Bulls stuff. But I don't have a player on the Bulls that I'm absolutely connected to or married to.
What do you mean?
Like,
yeah, you do. Alex Caruso.
Anyway,
So I said, yeah.
That's Jeremy Bolton's favorite player, the mayor of Montytown. But I am not necessarily connected to the Bulls by the player.
You like DeMar. You like DeMar.
I do. I root for DeMar, and I root for Alex Caruso. And Ayo Dosunmu, I think, is one of the best young players in the league. But they got to get rid of Billy Donovan, who they just extended.
Awful.
But my point is, I think the NBA is turning into a players league. Like your guy Kevin Durant getting hurt last night.
Yeah.
I know you cried yourself to sleep.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah,
it really was. It was,
I didn't sleep for the past 2 nights because of this.
I can imagine. I can imagine. I don't know. Dude. I don't know how you do it. I really don't. So DM Jake at SLC Jake to get into the Instagram group. Let's see. San Diego State says, Jake, the drafting of Devin Booker, stop it with the crazy talk. The Jazz drafting Devin Booker. Yeah, why would you do that? Why would you?
What do you mean, why would you do that?
Why would the Jazz draft Devin Booker? That's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Dennis Lindsay never did that.
Yeah, I know.
See Dante Exum.
Right.
Again, was supposedly the greatest player ever that never has become nothing. Boyd Lake, Bees is the best nickname. I agree with that. Giggity, what's up? My guy says, I'm hoping with new ownership, the Suns get out of this funk. You got to get this transfer of control with the Phoenix Suns done, though, because I think, and everybody in Arizona, I think you guys know this, there's a bit of an awkwardness now because Bobby Sarver, POS, continues to hang on to the Suns, and they still need his approval to make trades. And he still has to sign the piece of paper to make that trade happen. So it's a bit awkward right now for the Suns because I do think the Suns would like to make a trade.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the fact that they were in on Beasley and Vando and Conley and Vando. And I know for a fact that they're one of the teams that's inquired about Jordan Clarkson. So I know the Suns would like to make trades, and they need to make a trade to upgrade this roster. But they can't do that right now because Robert Sarver is still kind of sort of hanging on.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see exactly how all that plays out. Let's see. Mike Maple says, I followed, but I couldn't tag you, Jake. He followed you. Send him a DM, Mapes.
Yeah.
Mapes. Jake Gordon said, with the best comment, LOL, but maybe we could talk Malik Beastly. Oh!
There you go. I like it.
Malik Beastly.
Malik Beastly. Yeah, that's a good one.
Malik Beastly is a good one.
Just
I like that a lot.
A general question. How do we feel about the broadcast giving all these guys nicknames and stuff? I mean, is that cool? Do you guys enjoy that? Like, is that, Vando, Beastly, Donnie when he was here? Like, do we like that? Or like, where do we come down on that?
And again, speaking of the Jazz broadcast, Holly Rowe is covering the Georgia Bulldogs for ESPN.
Yeah.
In the national championship of college football.
Yeah.
And she's excellent.
I'm for real.
On college football.
I'm for real.
And it makes my mind hurt that she's just unlistenable on the Jazz.
You know what really stands out too? Like, and for all you guys out there who have League Pass, you'll get this. When you're watching other teams, out of market games you wouldn't normally be able to watch because of League Pass, you start to understand the good ones and the crappy ones, and the good ones always have the dynamic, short and sweet sideline reporter. And I feel like this applies to a lot of things in life. Get in, get out, do your thing, that's it. Like, that's what Holly should be. And I think she would be phenomenal for the Jazz. Like, I think it would be 10 times better if she would just do sideline stuff. Have a camera guy walk with her. We've been to Jazz games. Obviously, they have tons of resources to do this. They do it with all the timeout stuff that you don't see on TV. Have a camera guy with her, do sideline hits, and that's it. She'd be great.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. It's crazy. I just don't. I don't know, man. Let's see. Sean Carden says, Jazz needs to shop JC, Gay, and Kelly O. Conley can at least mentor the other upcoming guards. Yeah, I mean, and we've had this discussion with Mike as well. Like, Mike Conley's a guy that has value beyond dribbling a basketball.
Right.
Like, he is a mentor. He is a leader. He is a coach on the floor. But you look at the name you brought up there, like, I hope people understand that Rudy Gay is just an awkward fit on this roster now. Mm-hmm. He's not a terrible, awful player unless he's wearing a Jazz uniform, because his skill set doesn't fit into what this team's trying to do. The problem is you have to give him minutes so he can illustrate that mid-range jumper, that he can still knock down a three.
Yeah.
This is the THT conversation we had on Friday.
Yep.
You've got to play THT minutes because I think they're going to include him in a trade. He's got a $10 million number.
Well, and we talked all about this in the member group on Instagram, right? Like, people were bringing up the conversation or the question of, why is Rudy Gay getting minutes? Why are they playing Rudy Gay over young guys like, NAW or whatever young guy you want to point. And specifically, the conversation was about Ochai, right? And I kind of agree. Ochai had a pretty solid weekend. Like, everybody was saying yesterday that, hey, he didn't make great contributions. Like, he didn't light it up like he did against the Bulls. And I'm sitting here saying that not every time Agbaji plays, he's going to go like 6 of 6 from 3. Like, there are going to be nights where he doesn't get opportunities to shoot, but you notice what he does in replace of that. He's getting rebounds. He's making defensive plays. He caused, by playing good defense, like bodying up his guy, he caused like 2 or 3 turnovers last night that led to easy transition baskets. Yeah. And that's what I think, Will Hardy wants from him right now. He wants the work hard, try hard minutes out of him, and I think Ochai's delivering on that.
Yeah, I think Ochai Agbaji, we saw him in the G League several times here at the Maverick Center. By the way, if you don't know, the Salt Lake Stars play at the Maverick Center, and it is awesome. It is. You can usually get really nicely priced tickets. You can the Stars often give away tickets free.
Yeah.
It is a great basketball event to bring your kids to if you have young basketball fans. And watching guys like Frank Jackson, Ochai Agbaji when he was down in the G League, I think he's in the NBA the rest of the year now. Excuse me. I think he is just the fact that he is knocking down that corner three at a high percentage. I think it really justifies that deal.
Yeah.
And getting him in that deal feels like a really big get for the Jazz now because that's a guy, he can be your 7th, 8th, 9th guy because he's also incredibly athletic on defense.
Yes.
His ability to run the floor, his ability to come from behind and block shots, like Ochai Agbaji is somebody that you should really be excited about from what we've seen.
Well, and I think his ability to be pliable with the different groups he plays with. So, like, when you're an 8 or a 9 guy or even a 7th guy on the bench, on the roster, you're going to play with a lot of different groups. You're not always going to get to play with the same guys. And in the G League, like I've said before, we see him play many different roles. There are some nights in the G League where he'll go 10, 12, 15 minutes where he is the guy. And then other nights, he'll be a secondary guy like he is up with the Jazz. And I think that's really valuable for him. So I hope that he keeps shooting it well, because if he does shoot it well and if he does play defense, he can have a long NBA career. There's no reason he can't.
Yeah. Last night, Agbaji, 21 minutes, 0 of 2 from the floor, 0 points, 3 boards, and 1 turnover. Not his best, but if you look at his last 10, or if you look at his game log when he's really come along, you look at what he did. I thought Houston was a really big game for him because he played 18 minutes. But you could see that he was really working hard. Now, you don't love all the fouls in that Houston game. And frankly, I really don't care about 3 of 4 from 3. That doesn't impress me that much. It's the effort and the understanding. And then obviously what he did in Chicago, 21 minutes, 7 of 7, 4 of 4 from 3, a rebound, a dime, 19 points. Like, that felt like a really big performance. But he's a young guy in a situation where he's on a back-to-back against Memphis. I didn't expect him to play well yesterday.
Right.
We flipped on that game. We were watching the NFL and flipped on the game. I wasn't expecting him to have that kind of performance. So it was nice that he wasn't scoring, but he was also, playing 21 minutes, contributing in a lot of other ways.
Yeah.
I think that's what matters about Ochai. Let's see. San Diego State says Holly Rowe gets the Wayne's World most excellent thumbs up.
Right.
Truth. I like her on college football.
Yeah.
Her interviews, her halftime interviews, like I think she does a great job.
She did a hit for SportsCenter this morning where she's talking about how, Georgia, how Kirby Smart was talking to Nick Saban about how, Alabama successfully travels west when they need to, and that.
So Kirby Smart reached out to Program and Nick Saban, and asked them, because they played in the championship games in Los Angeles.
Program.
And so he asked Dabo, and he asked Nick Saban, well, hey, what did you do? She had the details on that. She had wearable technology that Georgia's using to help them recover faster.
We really did.
In a different time zone. Like all of that, like this inside information that was just fantastic. And then I get cute little acronyms and laughing and squealing on the Jazz broadcast.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. Mike Maple says, Mapes was the nickname I had growing up through high school. My dad had it too and made it his license plate. I joined the group and now you have the whole history, LOL. Exactly right, Mapes. Exactly right. I had a guy that I played baseball with whose name was Maple. And his name was Jack Maple. And so we used to call Jack Mapes.
Right.
So every time I say your name, I almost think of that guy.
I'm going to do that.
You know. Brett Robbins says, please don't say 22's name. He's not even worthy of mentioning.
Yes, he is.
Yowzer. That hurts. Court McMullen, excuse me, says, Holly just always feels out of place. Exactly.
Yes.
Succinctly put,
Yes.
Court.
Yes.
It always feels like she's out of place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of with you. I don't care where she sits or stands.
Yeah.
She sits at the scorer's table opposite of the broadcast usually. But she's never on camera, so it just doesn't matter to me. But my feeling is like her doing hits in the pregame is even awkward. Like when it's Bowler and Big T, I want to talk basketball in the pregame show.
Right.
When they're on the court ready to get us going to tip off, I want those two guys talking basketball, previewing the game. I want like a, hey, we're about to tip off. Let's get 35 seconds from Holly Rowe. And put her on camera standing courtside. That's what I want.
The Cavs did this thing where they had their female sideline reporter walk from, it started at the door to their locker room all the way out with JB Bickerstaff. And they were just talking, and they had a camera guy who had a handheld rig who was backwards walking, shooting them. And it was really cool. They had this whole conversation. It was probably like a 2.5 minute thing. And then once they got out on the court, that was it. But it was a cool visual to like see all that.
The night that Don scored 71, she was following him around the floor after the game. He was getting his bro hugs and his daps, and everybody was celebrating with him. And what it did is she was just kind of talking about, well, hey, this guy's coming up and that guy's coming up. And, you know, like she's just hearing the conversation. Like, that's what I want from Holly Rowe.
And the
it
thing
was really good.
It's like Holly Rowe has the skill set to do that. That's the thing. That's why I have so much trouble with it. It's not because Holly like isn't capable. Holly is way capable. She is. You're just using her in a very awkward way. And that's why I say, like, I just don't know why it's got to be this third voice of the broadcast thing. Like, who cares about the broadcast? It's about game presentation. It's about, hey, you've got Bowler and Big T doing a pretty solid job, I would say. Bowler is very homer, but it's Bowler. You get it. I really like Big T's color work. I think it gives you great analysis, really makes some good points. Like, I enjoy him. Holly is just being asked to do something she shouldn't be doing.
That's right.
And that's what I have an issue with. I don't have an issue with Holly as a person. Like, I think she does great work, but I just get tired of her always feeling like that.
Yep, totally agree. Guys, let's talk Utah Jazz. Can Lauri Markkanen carry the Utah Jazz? An interesting article by Tony Jones in The Athletic today.
Treat snoring and sleep apnea with no masks and no tubes. Just better, healthier sleep with Sound Sleep Medical. Use code MONTY, M-O-N-T-Y, to schedule a free sleep assessment today.
About Lauri Markkanen being featured by the Jazz, and the idea is the Jazz are going to make Lauri Markkanen the number one for the rest of the season. My question is, why hasn't he been the number one for most of the season? Once he established himself as the alpha on this team, you should have been regularly feeding him the ball. And my question is, why hasn't that happened? But you know the first thing that came to my mind, Jake, when we were talking about this morning. Okay, so you're gonna make Lauri Markkanen the featured guy.
Right.
What about Jordan Clarkson? And is Jordan Clarkson on board with that? Because my guess is not much is going to change, and maybe I'm being a cynic here, Jake, but do you see much changing with Lauri Markkanen?
I mean, I think that, you know, not so much in his game, but I think they're going to try and be more intentional about putting him in successful situations. So, you know, getting him on that mid-range, you know, elbow extended area out to the sideline there and trying to get him in a favorable matchup. I think that's what they mean by featuring him. And I think, you know, Jordan Clarkson, for all of this, you know, Ryan Smith conversation and that side of Jordan Clarkson's season, you know, if you set that aside, like, Jordan's not having a bad season. I think he's having a productive season. And the trouble is that if you have JC and Lauri out there and the message to the public is that you're going to feature Lauri Markkanen, JC's going to have to give the ball up. But we all know that JC's not going to give the ball up. And so when they open up the second half on Thursday, the first thing that I'm going to be looking for is, what is the offensive flow like? What's the balance like? What are you actually trying to do? I know what you told me you're going to try and do. You're going to feature Lauri Markkanen. But I want to see what does that actually equate to? How does that translate on the floor? Because we've heard a lot of things from Will Hardy, and I'm not even criticizing Will Hardy, but we hear all the time, like, hey, we got to do this better. We're going to try and do that, or, you know, whatever. It depends on the day, right? You always hear something. But ultimately, it feels like this team always devolves down into, hey, we made this mistake, or we didn't execute here, there, or whatever. Like, that's what I want to avoid. I want to see this team execute at a higher level for the last, whatever it is, 25 games here. Like,
yeah.
That's what I want to see.
But is Lauri Markkanen an alpha? And this is my biggest concern with the Jazz and Lauri Markkanen, is that I don't know that Lauri is a clear-cut number one guy. I don't know that he's a dude that you can look at and say, go win me the game. Sure. Okay, but is he a guy where you can say, hey, bring this team together? Give me, because by the way, in case you didn't see it today, Frank Jackson and Chris Dunn are on the ball club now.
Facts.
Frank, who's been tearing it up in the G League, who I think it's long overdue, that he is somebody that I think you have to look at and say, hey, you know what? Frank Jackson's got to get a shot here. Great. Chris Dunn, the former Bull, who I think is wildly talented, absolutely has to get a shot on this team.
Yeah.
They're both going to be here. That's going to change the dynamic of this team. But my question is, who's the leader on this Utah Jazz bench right now? Who's the guy that you can look at and say, yep, that's our leader right there? Who's the face of this team? I'm telling you, it's still Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah. No, I mean, 100%. I think if you ask any Jazz fan, they're going to go with Jordan Clarkson. But I think that, the Jazz front office and this team moving forward is Lauri Markkanen. I think that that's the guy that they'd like to build around, and not like to, they are. And I think that Walker Kessler is catching him. I think Walker Kessler has a chance to be the best big man in the league. I think that's his upside.
You do?
Yeah, I think he has the ability. I think he's got the he has the athletic ability, which I think is the first ingredient. You have to have at least the ability to get there. Because if you don't have the ability, I don't care who you are in the gym, you're not going to overcome just raw talent, raw athleticism as a big. So as a big at his size, he's got the athleticism, and now he's got to figure out how he can get a little bit tougher, a little bit stronger, how he can use his jumper to open up the drive to the basket, just like any other player would. And that's why I think, he is going to develop. You're going to see long strides through the summer from Walker Kessler. So if they can just play this string out, I'd love to see them break through the play-in and at least play one playoff series. I think that's top of the mountain this year. If you do that, you've had a hell of a year. I think if you get to the play-in and lose, you still had a good year. Not a hell of a year, but a good year. You did what you needed to do. So that's what I say. This whole featuring Markkanen thing, I agree with you. You should have been featuring him already. And this Jordan Clarkson situation, the other problem with saying you're going to feature Markkanen and, Jordan taking the ball is now Jordan's on a prove-it deal, right? Can we just agree with that? Like, hey, I'm going to be a free agent. I'm not accepting my option on this current contract. I want to see what I can go and get on the market. Well, you better go and earn that money now. You got to prove that you're worth that $90 million 4-year contract extension. So Jordan Clarkson's not going to be so willing, in my opinion, or reticent to give up the ball, dude. And I don't blame him for that.
I'm curious. And again, I'm curious if he signs with the Jazz over the summer. Because I think this is it for Jordan Clarkson. This is the last big contract of his career. It's probably 3 years. It's probably $75 to $90 million. I think this is his last best opportunity to make that bread and win a championship. Does that happen? Are the Jazz championship material in the next 3 years? I think they're very close. Do you want a 34-year-old Jordan Clarkson to still be ball hogging on your club when you're trying to win a championship? I don't know. I mean, ask me what the rest of the roster looks like. Do you want any part of paying Jordan Clarkson $90 million? Because I don't. And I know we've talked about this ad nauseum. I still don't understand why he wasn't traded. I would love somebody to ask. And again, somebody was asking in the comments earlier why Ryan Smith hasn't been on the show. We've asked.
Multiple times.
We have asked. I sent an email today. And we just have not gotten the green light. And my guess is we likely won't. But I think Jordan Clarkson, and the thing that worries me most, Jordan Clarkson served this club well. He deserved to go to a championship caliber club right now. And they, for whatever reason, didn't want to do that. And I don't know, is that Jordan saying, I want to be here? That's not what I was told. Jazz sources told me he let them know he'd be okay being moved to a contender. And they just chose not to do that. I can tell you they had first-round picks offered to them for JC. It just didn't materialize. So I don't know how you look at this situation, and I don't know how you look at Jordan Clarkson and see a happy ending here, because I think he deserves it. I think he's served this club well. You let him go, and I think there's going to be a lot of anger and vitriol from Jazz fans. And trust me, as somebody that does a global sports talk program on a daily basis, the Philippines are pissed if you even look at Jordan Clarkson with any question in your heart. I think this is going to be a very difficult ending for Jordan Clarkson and the Jazz.
Yeah, I agree,
Because
dude.
I do not see them re-signing him.
Yeah, well, and I think it's funny that the organization was like, yeah, we got to do right by Mike. We got to make sure we take care of Mike. And they are hoping JC's not selfish and are, willing, so far as we've been told, willing to take that risk, willing to allow JC to be an unrestricted free agent. Doesn't have shades of Gordon Hayward written all over it or anything if you're a Jazz fan, right? Like, that's the situation you're dealing with. And I understand why, I get why Filipinos would be pissed, right? I get it. Jordan's your guy. I understand, and I respect that. I have no problem with that. But I'm telling you, it does not make sense to continue to overpay someone who just isn't in your championship timeline. And if you think he's in your championship timeline, then like I've said many times in the past, we just have a philosophical disagreement.
Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting. Brady Cook says, I want Jason Tatum.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah, so do I. Right? I want Jason Tatum.
I want
too.
him.
Come on now. Jason Tatum. I mean, what he did in the All-Star game, scintillating.
Yep.
Scintillating. Car Wash Channel. What's up, Car Wash Channel? Good to see you, dude. Yes, Laurie can carry the Jazz with the three-pointer he makes, and he's a good guard. He works hard defensively. I would agree with that. The Common Man. What's up, Common Man? Are you new to the show, I think? Laurie is going to learn to refine and season his game. He needs a good young point guard to set up the offense and not a black hole.
Agreed.
I'm curious what Chris Dunn turns into here. Because Chris Dunn's a guy that brings volatility, and Chris Dunn's a guy that brings ability. And I think he just has been in some awkward situations. He was injured. He's played well in the G League. In my opinion, I've seen enough to know that he can play at this level.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what Chris Dunn brings. Jacob DeLambo, what's up, DeLambo? They were pumping the players they wanted to trade the first half of the season.
And I don't have any problem with that.
No.
I think that's the business of the league. I think, that was the challenge to Will Hardy pre-trade deadline, and now I think the challenge is different post-deadline.
Yep, I agree. Chris Dunn could become a player. I agree. DeLambo says we are not going to win many games during the final stretch of the season. I would not think so. Julian, what's up, Julian? Could it be that the Jazz want to re-sign JC and then try to get more for him at the next deadline? I just don't know that makes a lot of sense because all of that's out of your control.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you let him go to free agency, let him. When he chooses to go to free agency this summer, it's out of your control now, bro. Yeah. Like, you're done. Like, you don't have an opportunity to re-sign the guy.
Facts.
And I think you're asked. This is Gordon Hayward all over again.
Yep.
All over again. Brandon Butler, a member of the program, says, my supposition is they didn't want to take salary back. They want him to opt out and walk away so they have cap space to work with. Man.
Okay, and hey, if that's the case, fine. I'm good with that. You want to roll like that, I'm good. I'm with that.
I would hate to see him go away for nothing. Because he's worth a first-round pick, in my opinion.
But now that's best case scenario with the decision you've made.
Yeah. Ron McClure says, I want Kevin Durant. Never mind, Suns got him. Exactly.
Facts, dude.
Brandon Butler says, Danny has used his tactic in the past, and Danny DGAF if the fans like what he does. No, he doesn't. He doesn't give a Quinn B, do you think the Jazz will start letting Kessler take mid-ranges in games? He has a decent shot. Well, listen, I think it's coming. And, Jake, I know you've talked about this ad nauseum. I think he does come back next year with a jumper.
Yeah, I think that it's no surprise that we got a bunch of videos of him shooting three-pointers and shooting mid-range and having some fun at All-Star game practices. And, and we saw that with Rudy. That's, the Jazz like to do this. But for me, I think Walker Kessler has the ability to shoot it. He does. He has a nice stroke for a big man, and I think he needs to take advantage of that. And I think, frankly, for the Jazz offense to be their best, they got to have him taking and making those shots. And you see it in Phoenix with DeAndre Ayton. You see Ayton all the time, probably, 7-8 times a game. We'll knock down a little elbow jumper. He'll hit a little turnaround, just opportunistically. They're not featuring him on the block, certainly, but opportunistically. When you've run 5 possessions in a row of like pick and roll or some variation of that, and the defense starts sagging and you're not keeping them honest, okay, go ahead and pull one, Walker. Like, that's what I think they want to do. That's the next incarnation of his game. And to me, once he's able to gain the defense's respect from the elbow, you're in a world of trouble because he can get his own. He can get his own going right, 100%. From the free throw line to the basket, he can go right. He's got a little spin move. He's got a little baby hook. Like, he's got some game. So to me, I absolutely think he comes back with it.
Yep, talking Utah Jazz on the Monty Show. Thanks to our friends at Quick Quack Car Wash. You know they always bring you Utah Jazz and NBA talk on the Monty program. I think that the other conversation here, though, to get it back, is to Lauri Markkanen. Like, is Lauri Markkanen ever the best player on a championship team? I can't say that he is.
No.
I think he is. There is a certain level of, I don't know, what's the right way to say it? Soft. There's a wee bit of softness in Lauri's game, and I think that he certainly has shown he can be a number 2. I mean, the question is, how does his game change if there's an alpha at number 1?
Yeah.
If there's a Brad Beal at number 1, if there's a Jason Tatum at number 1, how does that change his game? If there's a Kevin Durant, how does that change his game? And the answer is, I don't know. I think it'll be very interesting to see how it changes his game because I think Lauri now knows he's the best player on this team. And I think he's going to be here for a significant amount of time. And it would not surprise me if the Jazz built around him, but I think building around him means you got to go get a number 1. You got to go get a killer.
Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
You know who I am.
You got to go get a killer, in my opinion. Do you ever, what is his role on a championship team?
Yeah, I think it's a number 2. I think Lauri is a dynamic number 2. I think he can be, a lethal number 2. I think he's got, again, it's his game plus a premier scorer. I mean, that's the most simple way to say it. Like, I don't have to tell you guys what Lauri can bring. You've watched him all year. You know that he can shoot it. He can get to the basket. He can dunk. He can finish. He's got a nice layup package. Like, he's got what he needs to be a good offensive player. The problem is, and what not a lot of people like to talk about with Lauri, is athletically, again, there's that word, right? He used it with Walker Kessler. Same deal here. Athletically, he's not as gifted as, some of the best in the league. So that prevents you from being a number 1. He's a little bit slow with that first step. I'm not saying he's got a slow first step, but when you compare him to, the best in the league, he's a little slow with his first step. So it makes it tougher for him to break guys off or to be this dynamic wing player. Like, he's not that guy. But what he is a nice little 3-point shooter, physical player, like, gets after it, like, he works hard. Like, he's a really solid number 2. And that's why I'm saying it wouldn't surprise me at all if you kept him and then you went and got, whether Bradley Beal's the guy we always bring up, but, whoever that name is, you went and got a number 1. That would be an ideal path.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to me anyways to see how all of this plays out. Because the other thing I don't think is a slam dunk is that this team misses the playoffs. Because I don't think we have any idea who the LA Lakers are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel pretty good saying I think the Clippers are better. But if you look at the standings, I don't have it. I mean, do you really have a handle on who the Lakers are? Right now, I don't know that I do. LeBron James is talking about how the next 23 games are the most important 23 games of his career.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that sounds like a motivated killer to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at the Western Conference standings. I say to myself, okay, you're tied for 11th with Portland. Are you better than Portland right now? Probably not. Right? Like, are you better? Do you have a Dame-style player? You don't.
No.
You don't. Like, I look at the Lakers. They're 2 games out of a playoff spot. They're 4 games out of a 6th spot. I mean, they got a hell of a long road to go. And by the way, after that, San Antonio, the Rockets, they're not even in the equation. I look at Oklahoma City. I'm staring at Golden State wondering, you're a game in the playoffs. 1 game separates you from being out.
Yeah.
Is that a team that we believe in? I really like the Wiseman trade, but I look at this GP2 situation. I have no idea what happens there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he contributes, right? I think there are so many unknown factors at the bottom of the Western Conference. I don't know how we're sitting here today thinking anything other than it's really possible for this Jazz team to go out and make a playoff run. I don't see any reason that we should count them out.
Yeah, and I don't agree with the assertion that they're going to lose a bunch of games. I think they will lose games, obviously, but they're definitely a play-in team, in my opinion. It's unacceptable for them not to be.
You look at their road games, 2 at OKC, Dallas, Orlando, Charlotte, Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, you're going to probably lose to OKC. Now, I think they're a better team than you. You should lose to Dallas. You're on par with Orlando. You're better than Charlotte, and I think you're going to contend with Miami. Right? Sacramento, you can beat Sacramento at any single night. San Antonio, you should beat San Antonio. At Boston, you're probably losing that game. On a Friday afternoon at 5:30 Mountain Time, you're losing that game. Brooklyn,
you're losing that game.
You're probably losing that game. Right? And then you finish at the Lakers. That game against the Lakers could be a play-in game. Whoever wins that game could get in. Right? Like this game, we're going to announce tomorrow who we're going to against Denver on April 8th. At 4 o'clock tomorrow, we'll tell you who we're taking to that game.
Mm-hmm.
That game will likely be hugely consequential to the Jazz playoff hopes.
Yeah.
Right? You look at their road games, they have a chance to win probably half their road games. By the way, the home schedule's no cake. Now, obviously, you're coming out against Oklahoma and San Antonio twice, Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday. So that feels like a nice spread of games.
Yeah.
Thursday, off Friday, Saturday, off Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to start the road trip. Your next homestand is March 18th, Boston. The 20th, Sacramento. 22nd, Portland. 24th, Milwaukee. And then March 27th at home against Phoenix.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have an easy road to hoe here.
I'm a man.
I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but do we really think that we can just sit here and count out the Utah Jazz? I'm not at all.
Well, I guess people are.
Yeah. Well, and listen, PLL superfan forever, Sacramento is actually very good.
Yeah, they're good, but you can beat them.
You can beat them. But I'm telling you, Keegan Murray's the guy nobody's talking about. Nobody's talking about Keegan Murray. You know. Ken Williams says, I don't want to get pissed again. Bye, guys. What are you pissed about?
What are you getting pissed about, dude?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Riley O'Brien, what's up? The best RV salesman in Utah, says, I'd still lean towards second best on a championship team. Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. Brady Cook, but look how much Laurie has improved from last year to this year. He is good, but still needs help. Yes, he does. Quinn B, who do you think the Jazz are looking to get in this year's draft? No idea.
Yeah, it's hard to say, dude. I mean,
no idea.
You know, I think it's not as simple as who they want in the draft. It's a philosophical thing too. Like you have, you know, who they want in the draft versus, you know, where they'd be willing to trade, who's willing to trade. Like, you know, they've got all this draft capital, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this team is, like, you got to view this team in windows. The first window is closed. The pre-deadline, you know, trade deadline window is closed. And this team is now different. And now you're going to see a team with Frank Jackson and Chris Dunn. And, you know, you're going to see bigger roles for some of these guys. Like, this team's different now. What does that look like? You know, so to me, it's like, how long is Colin Sexton going to be out? Like, how long is that hammy going to bother him? Like, you know, how much JC are we going to get versus Markkanen? Like, there's all these little things that you got to watch for.
And I'm just telling you, man, I feel very, what's the right way to say this? I feel very positive about the future of this team.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Danny Ainge is looking to draft a bunch of dudes with his picks. I don't.
Excellent strategy, sir.
I think he's not built a team that way. And I think, yes, everybody says, well, he drafted Tatum and Brown.
We built this program on NIL.
After, what did he do before that? Like, his championship teams were not built on the draft.
Yeah.
And he's looking to win now, not later.
Yeah.
Brandon Butler. The problem with Laurie is he still needs somebody to facilitate for him.
Yep.
I would agree with that. And I think Chris Dunn could be that guy. I'm excited about Chris Dunn.
Yep.
Frankly, you guys, I'm excited about this entire roster right now. Like, I look at the Utah Jazz.
The Utah Jazz.
Colin Sexton's got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
It's becoming problematic now. But Clarkson, Markkanen, Walker Kessler, Udoka,
Bro, what are you talking about?
Ochai Agbaji, THT, Chris Dunn. I love him.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, trust me when I tell you, Chris Dunn's going to do some things that are going to wow you, and then he's going to disappear for a minute. And then he's going to do some things that are going to wow you, and then he's going to disappear for a minute. And Frank Jackson likely is not a guy that A, is going to stay healthy, or B, contribute a huge amount of production to this team.
You know.
Yeah, but I still think he's a guy that long-term they need to develop.
Frank Jackson, nah, he's not a long-term guy.
Okay.
Now, Chris Dunn, that's a long-term dude. Chris Dunn's a guy that can play in this league. He's a 1994 baby. So you feel like
us millennials.
He's on the right side of 30.
For a minute.
Like you feel like he can play a little bit, man.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like he can play a little bit. So I'm excited about him. The problem with Frank Jackson is he's had multiple opportunities and he has not flourished. And when you look at the opportunities that he's got, now granted, it was New Orleans when they were terrible, and it was Detroit, and they've never been good. The guy barely has one season averaged double-digit points. Now,
Give him
granted,
a real run, man.
well, he's had a real run, though.
How many games played?
53, 40, 59, and 61.
Yeah.
Not as a starter, but this is also a guy that averaged just about 20 minutes a game, 18 minutes a game in his career. The problem is he's only a 33% career three-point shooter, and you got to be better than that. In the G League, he was better than that. Dude can play, but what is he he has not shown to be more than a role player.
Yeah.
And I know there's great affection for him in this state, but man, I'm telling you, go easy. Jeremy Bolton. Jazz needs some Mac McClung.
Well,
McCluskey, take it easy.
McCluskey.
Mayor of Monty Town. Jeremy McCluskey, take it easy. Squid, the 3 games since the trade, he hasn't have people set him up the same. He's struggling adjusting. You can see it in his efficiency, but he is averaging 28 since then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you talking about marketing?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's going to be a huge change for him. I mean, I think no matter what, Lauri Markkanen's a piece going forward. I could see a scenario where he just doesn't play a whole lot of good basketball because I think it's going to be a real challenge. This 4 days off going to Thursday, this is a big deal for the Jazz because they have a lot of new pieces now.
The Monty Show.
The Monty Show, presented by the Advocates, UtahAdvocates.com. Obviously, the biggest story in sports today is the return of the Don. Jake, the Jazz are a 3.5-point dog. Will Jazz fans boo Donovan Mitchell?
Yeah, I think the answer is unequivocally yes. I think Jazz fans are a little bitter about it. And look, we in our exclusive membership behind the scenes Instagram group, we were talking about this. We were talking about how Donovan Mitchell is someone who Jazz fans are frustrated with because Jazz fans, a lot of times, not you guys who listen every day because you guys are pretty plugged into the team, but if we zoom out and we think about the fan base in totality, I'm talking about the guy who works his 9 to 5, isn't plugged into the team, and just reads the headlines. That guy is not happy with Donovan Mitchell, and the issue and the reason for that is because they read headlines, just like a lot of us do. So Donovan's headlines, as we all know, haven't been real positive lately. You take that, you combine that with the 71-point game, which is another headline maker. And what do we have? We have a perfect storm for everyone hates Donovan Mitchell who doesn't understand his plight in life. Yesterday in this town, what do we get? We get Smith going on the radio, talking about how they feel like they had a great relationship with Donovan Mitchell, how they feel like, they made great progress in this town. And I'm here to tell you, while that might be true, while they may feel that way, clearly Donovan Mitchell didn't feel that way. And I'm also here to tell you that I don't think Donovan's issues were so much that he hated playing for the Jazz. I don't think Donovan walked around every day and said, man, I hate Vivint, I hate the Jazz, I hate their fan base. I don't think that's Don. But what I do think is that Don didn't enjoy not being in a more diverse culture, with all due respect to Salt Lake, right? We know, and we've had the conversation, and we're not looking to go back into that conversation, but we know the demographics in Salt Lake. We know that it's a predominantly white state, and I think Don was frustrated that, as he said in his own words, there weren't more people that, quote, looked like him. And I respect that. So will he get booed tonight? Yeah, I think he'll get booed tonight. We're going to be there. with Austin Napierski and whoever he decides to bring. And Austin's going to be wearing his sweatshirt from the team shop that he's going to buy. So, yeah, I think when we're there, they are going to boo him. There's no question about it. My question is how does Donovan respond? Because I remember how LeBron responded, right? We all remember when LeBron multiple times has gone back to Cleveland in a Heat uniform, right? When he went back to Miami in a Cleveland uniform. We all remember those days. LeBron had big nights against those teams. He had big nights in his return to the different markets he played in. And so to me, I would love nothing more than to see Donovan Mitchell drop a 40 spot on this team and prove a point and basically shut up all the haters, because I do think there are a lot of haters in this town that don't like Don, that think he's some victim, or that think that he's some just guy who just causes drama. That's what we hear all the time. Oh, he's just a drama queen. I don't think he's just a drama queen. I think that he has his beliefs just like you and I do. And I think at that point, I think he's going to vocalize those. And he doesn't care whether you like it or not. And I think that's the part that rubs Jazz fans the wrong way. That's the issue they have with it. They wish he would just conform to the status quo.
I don't understand the booing thing, because one of the conversations I think is really important that we have today is, what did Donovan Mitchell mean to this city? And I understand that there's a lot of people who want to say that Don was woke or whatever you want to say about Donovan Mitchell. If you boo Donovan, you don't understand how important he was to this town. And I think the inspiration that Donovan brought to this city, I think the fact that Donovan Mitchell is a guy who was an unbelievably good citizen. You never heard about Donovan Mitchell off the floor.
Yeah.
You never heard about Donovan being lazy. You never heard about Donovan being a problem. You never heard about Donovan, being a cancer in the locker room like Rudy Gobert. You never heard about Donovan Mitchell constantly and obsessively bitching at officials. Like, he wasn't that guy. All you heard about Donovan Mitchell was how hard he worked in the offseason. And think about just the motor and the work ethic that Don brought to this club. And that every summer he worked hard, and every training camp he came back with a broader, better game. That's what you heard about Donovan. And yet you're going to have fans that are going to boo him as though he's some kind of pariah in this town. And he's not. And if you boo Donovan Mitchell, don't come to the game because you're not a Jazz fan.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say. I think it is ridiculous if you're going to come to this game tonight and you're going to boo a guy who I think almost single-handedly carried you to one of the best runs post-Karl Malone that this franchise has had. That is, Donovan's time here is the best run this franchise has had since Karl and John.
Facts.
And I think since Mr. Miller passed, Donovan carried this team. It wasn't built to his strength. He never had a team that catered to what he did well. He never had an offense that catered to what he did well. Frankly, he had one of the worst, in my opinion, general managers in the NBA at the time that he was here. And you're going to blame Donovan Mitchell. You're going to call him, it's just so short-sighted, in my opinion. And it makes very little sense to me. Very little sense to me that people have so little ability to see and digest what Donovan's meant to this club.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. Teddy Wayman says, Don going for 50 tonight.
Dude, I would love to see it. I really, really would love to see it.
Yeah, I would. That would be a phenomenal show. Brett Robbins says, at least Gordon had the Papa Murphy's balls to say he's leaving instead of sneaking around behind our backs asking for a trade. Okay, so again, I will just say, where has Donovan Mitchell ever asked for a trade? Where was it that he demanded a trade? Where was that? Because that's never come out. Danny's never said that. Don's never said that. Will anybody in the media ask him if he asked for a trade or demanded a trade? I don't know. I guess we'll find out until Donovan says he demanded a trade. Because, again, I was told right up until the last moment that they had conversations and Donovan essentially said, hey, if you can make a move, make a move. I'm not going to stand in your way of making a move. Donovan never demanded to be traded. And anybody who thinks he did that, hey, you're going to need to show proof of that, because I'm here to tell you that that never happened. Mm-hmm. Donovan never went to Danny Ainge or Ryan Smith and said, I'm out. You need to trade. He never said that. He never said that at all. BB said, who cares? We are done with a player that's wanting only to see guys of his skin color, racist comp. What are you talking about? See, and again, this is where the shallow guy always goes.
Yeah.
Where you always want to play the race card with Donovan Mitchell. That's the problem. And it's one of the bigger issues In my opinion, this is one of the bigger issues in Utah. We always want to go to the race card first.
My biggest problem
Always.
with this comment right here, with all due respect, B, because I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to just take you to the woodshed or something. But when you say something like that, I have to respond to that. And what that comment tells me is you don't have any ability to empathize or put yourself in Donovan's shoes. How would you feel if you were and I don't know what your skin color is, but I'm just going to use the example, a white man in a 94% black community? How would you feel?
Why is it a problem that he recognizes when he was a Utah Jazz man, you look around Vivint Arena and there's a bunch of white people watching you play basketball? And why is it a problem that makes him uncomfortable and I thought it was great yesterday. Like Big T was on Spence's show. Thurl Bailey was on ESPN 700. And you know what he said? Yeah, you look around and there's not a lot of people that look like us. BB, how come you're not attacking Thurl Bailey today? Why are you not going after Thurl Bailey for saying that when he played here, hey, you look around and there's a bunch of white people? And yesterday, what did Thurl Bailey say? Hey, welcome to Salt Lake City. There's not a lot of people that look like us. So again, BB, why are you not taking Donovan Mitchell or Thurl Bailey to the woodshed the way that you're calling Donovan Mitchell a racist? Doesn't that make Thurl Bailey a racist? Because he said the exact same thing yesterday. Maybe it's because you lack perspective and you don't understand that that's a real issue because you don't have to ever think about that. You don't ever have to worry about what it's like to not see other people who look like you. You'll never have to worry about that in Utah.
And by the way, we as two white dudes don't fully know how Donovan feels. I can tell you right now, I have the ability to empathize with Don. Like, I understand. Hey, man, like, you're uncomfortable with the idea that you don't see other black folks around. I get that. The concept of that, the idea of it, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now, I will never, it's physically impossible for me to ever feel how Don feels because I'm white and he's black. That's just the world we live in. And I'm not scared to say that.
No.
But to sit here and say that Donovan Mitchell is racist is
it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, like it's
ridiculous.
It's blasphemy.
It's just ridiculous. And the problem is we, as a society, don't want to talk about issues of inequality. We just want to bury that stuff deep, deep, deep down, and we want to talk about, hey, was this guy the problem? Or he's a problem because he wanted to do... Why can we not embrace, especially in today's culture, that the athlete, and specifically black athletes, and specifically in the NBA, they carry the water, man. They have the power. There's no question about that. And I think this DeMar Hamlin thing in the NFL actually shed some light on that, because now we know, thanks to Don Van Natta at ESPN, the NFL didn't want to cancel the game. The NFL didn't move to cancel the game. It was the players and the coaches that said, we're not playing tonight. And then the NFL canceled the game.
Which kind of explains the Joe Buck situation, that everyone was like, oh, well, Joe just made an idiot of himself. No, he didn't.
It is remarkable to me that people don't understand in the NBA it's a players' league, period. It is a players' league. And to be specific about Donovan Mitchell, he handled himself with nothing but class. He handled himself with nothing but professionalism.
Yeah.
The way that he has he taken some snipes? Sure he has. Sure he has. But the way that he exited Salt Lake City, he didn't say two words. He didn't rip Salt Lake City. He didn't Darren Williams. He didn't Gordon Hayward, publish a blog on accident. Like, he didn't do any of that. He just didn't say anything. But if he'd have said something, guys like BB would have crucified him for it. He says nothing, guys like BB crucify him for it, because it's not that Donovan is, a Jazz man leaving. It's that he's black and he's leaving, and you're happy about that. And that's the real issue. Yeah. That's the real problem, in my opinion. Let's see. Nameless Ghoul of 9/11, who is a member of the show, says, Monty speaking truth on Don. Don was a beast. Best Jazz since Stockton and Malone. And I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah.
We, as a fan base, did not appreciate Donovan Mitchell when he was here. You never do. You never, ever do. It's why, and I had to drag you kicking and streaming to go to the Laker game, I'm going to see LeBron James before he retires. And I'm going to do it in Los Angeles because that guy's being wasted in LA.
Okay, I don't know that you had to drag me kicking and screaming.
Well, you weren't exactly excited to go.
Well, those weren't exactly $5 tickets, my guy.
I just don't care about that. The point is, when you have guys like Kevin Durant, when Kobe Bryant's a perfect example of this, Michael's a perfect example of this, when you have guys like that, and you see that LeBron's at the end of his career, and you see that Kevin Durant's at the end of his career, next chance I get to see the Nets, I'm going to see him. Because I want to see Kevin Durant while he's still Kevin Durant. And you have to appreciate those guys. We did not appreciate how good Donovan Mitchell is. And we resent Donovan Mitchell for how good he was when he was here. Because now he's even better and he's with the Cavs. And they're contenders in the Eastern Conference. And the Jazz are out of a playoff spot. And I think a lot of fans resent Donovan Mitchell because he's another superstar that didn't stay here. And at what point, by the way, can we start saying that maybe it's not the player and maybe it's us as a fan base? Mm-hmm. When can we start saying that? Because this is not new, by the way. Brett Robbins says Mitchell is young and a top 15 player. You just don't trade that on a whim. There's no doubt he wanted a trade. No, I don't. I actually think, from what I understand, from a combination of what I've been told by Jazz sources and NBA sources, what happened was that Donovan Mitchell was left on an island. Donovan Mitchell was not in the loop on Rudy Gobert. And I do believe, and people close to Donovan have told me this, and Rudy's people told me the same thing. Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert didn't hate each other. They just knew they couldn't play together. That's what it came down to. And once Rudy got traded, I think Donovan was a little surprised at the return. And I think that's when they started having conversations. Donovan Mitchell, Ryan Smith, and Danny Ainge started having real dialogue after the Rudy trade. And I think teams like New York were just not going to make the trade. Foolishly, they were not going to make the trade. And then when Cleveland swooped in, because Cleveland was not a real contender for Don at any point until the last probably 5 days before the trade happened. And they got real serious about it. And I think that's why you saw that trade happen. I don't think Ryan Smith and Donovan Mitchell have a bad relationship. I don't think Danny Ainge and Donovan Mitchell had much of a relationship. And I don't think Donovan Mitchell hates the Jazz. I think Donovan Mitchell saw an opportunity, and he was not going to stand in the way of what is a blockbuster, massive deal, because the Jazz can't say no to that deal. You're not saying no to what the Cavs offered. You're just not. Mm-hmm. There's no chance that's happening. So when you get that opportunity, and I think when they went to Donovan and said, hey, we have an opportunity, Donovan Mitchell was like, sure, let's go. Let's do it. He's not going to stand in the way of that. And he was uncomfortable with the environment here. So I don't think Don, and I would put it at 99%. I don't believe Donovan Mitchell said, you need to trade me. I want out of Salt Lake City. I don't believe that ever happened. Because I talked to a lot of people at that time that were right there in the middle of it. And nobody ever heard Donovan Mitchell go to anybody and say, I want out of Salt Lake City. Nobody ever said that. Just like Rudy Gobert never demanded a trade. Rudy Gobert never went, and the ridiculous report that was, it's him or me. Rudy never made that trade. That's a pure fabrication. That never happened.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
That never happened.
Yeah.
What happened with Rudy was, Rudy in his exit interview said, hey, if you can move me, I wouldn't mind a change of scenery. And
which is very different than, hey, trade me or I'm not playing.
The Jazz absolutely were trying to trade. I think the Jazz had a Rudy Gobert deal at the deadline. And I think if they had traded Rudy Gobert at the deadline, Quinn Snyder would still be the coach of this team. Donovan Mitchell would still be here, and this would be the best team in the Western Conference. But that's not how the stars align. And they didn't trade Rudy at the deadline. They traded him over the summer. And I think a lot of things came together.
So is he going to get booed tonight? Yeah,
oh, there's no doubt about that.
He's going to get roundly booed tonight.
There's no doubt about that.
And this whole thing yesterday, 2 minutes on this. Mm-hmm. This whole thing about the Cavs skipping shoot around. Don't buy into this whole thing of, oh, well, they skip shoot around because it's Salt Lake and he's scared to play. No, they didn't skip that. It just has nothing to do with it, dude. You really think that Don is scared to play? No, Don is rolling up tonight in full-on villain mode, ready to light
ready.
this thing on fire.
He's ready.
Yeah.
He's ready. There's no doubt. I think not only is Donovan Mitchell not scared to play, he cannot wait to play.
Exactly.
I think he is excited to play. I think it is.
That's every day.
To me, I think it is going to be remarkable. I think it is going to be remarkable to watch him perform tonight. And I am so whether we were taking the reason we were taking a fan with us, Austin and Piersky won the tickets tonight to sit at the game with us because you want to be there. This is one of those games where you're going to look back and say, man, Don put on an incredible performance, and
it's one of the most impactful evenings in Utah Jazz history.
I think it's critical. I think it's absolutely critical.
You're going to look back, right? So 3 years from now, when you're back in the Western Conference Finals and you're contending and you're a good team again, you're going to look back and you're going to say, man, it feels good that we're contending. But do you guys remember Don's return? Do you remember when he dropped 55 and 8 against the Jazz in his return?
Yeah.
And there was nothing they could do to stop him? I remember that. Like, you're going to remember tonight. And that's why we did the giveaway. And that's why we're excited to go with Austin.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I'm super stoked about it. Because I also think the other thing that I think a lot of people forget when we talk about Don is that the Jazz are in a really good spot. The Jazz are in a really good spot. And I think when you look at when you look at the Utah Jazz and you look at where they are and you look at that, I think by the time we get there, they're going to have 5 first-round picks.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in a really good place. And that doesn't even consider, how does Ochai develop over the summer? How does, what happens to NAW? Where does Beasley end up? Where does, it's how much better has...
Wait. Did you say Beastly?
Yeah, Malik Beasley.
We decided how smooth that was? He worked that in there. We decided that yesterday, and he's already using it.
Yeah, the listeners decided, the members of this show decided that we were going to call him Malik Beasley. One of the things as an exclusive member of the program,
right,
is that you get some say on some of the content here, man. You should absolutely join the program as a member. You get say over some of the things we talk about. You get into the exclusive Instagram group. You get members only content right here on our YouTube channel. You get discounts on our merch that's coming. Like, you get a lot of things. You wind up going to Jazz games with us. You wind up at exclusive events with BYU and Utah football players. All you got to do is pay $9.99 a month. I just put the join link in the comments. Go ahead and check it out.
Okay.
Yes.
Really quick. I know BB's the villain this morning.
Yeah.
This comment he's got right here is making me laugh. This right up here, like 5 or 6 up right there. You see that? You see that longer one right there? This is funny to me.
We love the Jazz, but never had problems with players. If you attack Utah, you've never had problems with players. If you attack Utah on your way out, don't expect us to kiss your ass late. So wait, but that's been my point. Why would you be mad at Donovan Mitchell then? Because he didn't attack Utah on the way out.
And notice he's like, I didn't play the race card. Is that what that says at the end there?
And don't race card everything. We will remember the stars that are legit and don't race card everything.
So wait, are you talking about yourself? Because you did play the race card.
Well, and the funny thing is, Donovan didn't attack Utah on the way out. I don't know what. See, this is the thing. Like, you're making up a false narrative so you can hate Donovan Mitchell. And why are you working this hard to hate another human being? I don't understand that. This guy was nothing short of unbelievable on the floor. We were at his first ever preseason game.
Yeah.
Like, you knew it as soon as you saw it.
Yeah.
And yet, where are you? You're trying to find a reason to hate the guy. Like, so why do you hate other people like that?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do we have Vando guard Donovan? Well, this is a much bandied about discussion.
Great question.
I don't know who you have guarding, because it ain't Jordan Clarkson, because you've got Darius Garland, who I would think Mike Conley's going to have to check him.
You're going to get a rotation of guys guarding Donovan Mitchell, including Ochai Agbaji.
Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter It just does not matter who you guard. Nobody's guarding Donovan one-on-one.
The real question is, how many times is Walker Kessler going to get dunked on tonight? Because I think that when I talk about wanting to burn the place to the ground, that's what I mean. Like Donovan, they're going to play a lot of pick and roll in the first quarter, and Donovan's going to come out, I guarantee you, with 1 or 2 posterizing attempts.
Well, and the problem's going to be he's going to dime out because one of the things that this particular Utah Jazz team struggles with is, well, defense. On the whole,
generally speaking,
I think that you're going to exploit Kelly Olynyk, who I do not believe should be starting for this team.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to wind up probably trying to pick and roll Donovan into one-on-one situations, and I think you're going to hope that the Jazz switch everything. And the issue is that Don is such an elite three-point shooter now that you can't go under on him. And as soon as you go over, he's going to drive to the basket. And I think you're right. I think he's going to try and dunk on dudes.
Yeah.
I think you're going to try and dunk on dudes.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Whether you're BB or you're somebody else or whoever you are, you have to watch this game tonight.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. Let's see. Jeremy Bolton says Donovan going against Tatum in his first year preseason was incredible to watch. It was.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think about. Like, I think about some of the moments watching him have no business on the court, limping around in the playoffs, but still trying. I think about, in Dallas last year, that pass to get Bogey the open three.
Yes.
Donovan Mitchell made this team good. And just, the Don versus Rudy narrative, Rudy had no business being on the floor, but Quinn didn't have the stones to take him off.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing. But yeah, I mean, Donovan had so many moments here. I think it's interesting. David Hume says, I see the persecution complex amongst Jazz fans is alive and well.
It is.
And I think that's a real thing. I think Jazz fans have been victimized so many times. And I think it goes back to, LHM and, Jordan in 97, it goes back to, John Stockton and now Karl Malone, who I think has earned a villain tag, which is amazing to me. And I thought it was really interesting. I can't remember who brought it up on Twitter, but somebody said, if Donovan Mitchell's a villain, what is Karl Malone?
Well, Karl Malone is a hero to this community, apparently.
And he's just a nasty-ass human being in general.
Yeah.
But people laud over him, but, want to see Donovan Mitchell fail. It's crazy to me the double standard we have because there's so much. Just from a basketball perspective, do you understand that Karl Malone went to the LA Lakers to try and win a championship? He went to the dark side to try and win a championship.
Yes.
And you love that guy, but you hate Donovan Mitchell. It's crazy to me.
Yep.
It's crazy to me.
Yep.
I just, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Eric and Raleigh says, I moved to block BB. We're not blocking anybody.
No, we're not blocking them.
We don't block people on this show. There is a very specific set.
So the first person we ever blocked on the show was Duck Season last week. Duck Season was making fake accounts and doing nefarious things behind the scene. BB's just sharing his opinion, and I'm here to beat that thing into the ground, man.
BB's just exposing who he is.
Well, that's fair, too. Yeah.
That's all he's doing.
Yeah.
Now you know who he is. If you're upset or disappointed by BB's comments, that's a you thing because you know what that guy is now. San Diego State, who's a member of the program, good morning, says one of the problems with racism is the perpetrator has a deep-seated unconscious bias, zero-sum game mentality. If you gain steps to equality, I have to give up what I earned. Well, that's a different show. Probably. It's a different show. Salty Drunk, who's a member, says, Monty, to be fair, Donovan has made a couple of antagonizing comments in the media when he got to Cleveland. Well, I mean, I also think he did do that. And I think he's done that. We've done shows on the things he's said.
But let me ask you this, and I don't disagree with you, James, Salty Drunk. I don't disagree with you, but how do we discern the difference between Donovan's truth and how he truly feels? How do we discern the difference between that and taking shots? Because the Salt Lake community takes it as a shot, but if that's how Donovan felt, then that's just how he felt. It just is what it is. That's the reality of his world. So if you feel like the sky is green and then I take it personally because I think the sky is blue, It just is what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why I say, like, that's not an unfair question or a point, but that's where I think it's really interesting how the community has reacted to those comments, because the one thing I believe above anything else that you hear about Don, or that I've heard, is that Donovan speaks his truth. That's just what it is. Like, he's just going to say what he experienced and how he feels about something, and that's it. Like, I don't think he's trying to gaslight the Salt Lake community. I don't. I think he's just saying, hey, now that I'm gone, I feel I'm in a safer space, really, to share what my experience was. And if that pisses off Salt Lake, so be it. You know? And by the way, Salt Lake has a history of dropping N-bombs during games with Russell Westbrook and other guys. So I'm sure Donovan coming into this game is preparing for some of that stuff. If you're not, you're foolish, in my opinion. So
yeah, I think if you're not preparing for that, I don't know how you would do that.
Which again, though, is why I wanted and we wanted to be there, because to hear that stuff, you have to be there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, who actually plays, because I think, and somebody made the point about the injuries tonight. Brandon Butler. Kelly, THT, and Sexton are out. It's going to be a long night. THT has played 2 games in 3 weeks. I'm not worried about him being out. Kelly Olynyk, frankly, is not very good right now. I'm not worried about him being out. And Sexton's been out a good chunk of the year.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about him being out. I want somebody to take the opportunity. Walker Kessler should be your starting 5 tonight. I want to see that. I want to see it. Do we get Evan Mobley tonight? I want to see that. I want to see NAW step up. I want to see, guys on this team really take the opportunity and become significant contributors for the Jazz.
Yeah.
You have to do that. Neville93 says, good morning, people just waking up. Don's going to burn this city to the ground today.
Well,
I think there's a real good chance that happens.
That's right, T.
Real good chance that happens. Troy Cushing, we don't have a good defense, so Don will go for 48 at all. The Jazz are not great. I mean, that would be incredible. Brett Robbins says, oh, God, that means 20-plus minutes for 22. Rudy Gay is going to have to play.
Yep.
But again, I also think, and I'm not defending Rudy Gay, but so many people told me I'm wrong on Rudy Gay. I just don't see that Rudy Gay is a fit in this particular Jazz system.
Yeah.
If he's a veteran on another contending team, he's a far better player. But you're asking him to do things he can't do. You're asking him to do things he can't do. By the way, Jake, you should hold the wheel at 10-2.
Oh, God. Here
Shams has an update on Kevin Durant. Missing several weeks. The future outlook to win the Eastern Conference remains mostly unchanged.
This is a code 10 abort.
Odds for the Sixers and Cavs have moved now to plus 900 to plus 750, so they have a better chance. And from 1,000 to 900. So with Kevin Durant out, what's probably a month, who do you think wins the Eastern Conference? Because it won't be the Nets.
No, I would have to go with Boston. I think Philly's there. I think that helps Philly a ton, if I'm being honest.
The interesting thing about Boston is they are becoming wildly inconsistent through long stretches of games. And I'm curious how much better Cleveland can get. I am curious about that.
Okay, this is what I mean right here. Sorry, not to cut you off. Did you see that? On ESPN.com, if you go to ESPN.com, on the Cleveland Cavaliers homepage, what jersey is Donovan Mitchell wearing?
A Jazz jersey.
Not wearing a Cleveland jersey.
Because it's a story about Donovan Mitchell to the Cavs was an 18-month in the making trade.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, we can... Anyway, the point is, how much better can the Cavs be? I think the Cavs can be a far better team than they are now, because I think they're all still learning to play as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have not seen. I think one of the guys that's really struggled on this team is Evan Mobley, and it'll be interesting to see exactly how he gets back to being the best version of himself. Because I think he's a 17 to 20 point a night guy. And right now, I just don't think that we've seen that. And it'll be interesting to see how he grows in this offense. Because Don tends to be a vampire on offense. I mean, he's a volume shooter. But guys like Darius Garland have been fine with that. Evan Mobley's the guy, in my opinion, that is taken a step back, and I think he has a lot more to offer. And I'm curious how he gets back to his 15 to 17 instead of 14, 15 point guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to make more with the shots he's got. I mean, that's the only way. I mean, I'm sure that there are probably a couple more shots a night for him, but there's certainly not like 8 or 10 more shots or something ridiculous like that. You know?
He's going to have to become a better range player.
Yeah,
is what that cocomes down to. But look, I look at their team, and if you look at guys like Don, Garland, Mobley, Jared Allen, I don't know. You don't have an answer for Jared Allen on this team. You don't. I mean, I'll be curious to see how the Jazz do staying out of foul trouble tonight.